Anyway, so let's enough chat. Let's bring on Coach Seksi and say hello. So I'm just gonna give him a ring, and we'll kind of move on with the rest of the program. Ring, Coach Seksi. How you doing? Ring, ring. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Oh, hello there. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Now, what time is it there? Because you're Pacific, right?
Yeah, no, well, I guess the Pacific region, but 9:47
9:47 p.m., of
p.m.
course. So
p.m. Yep.
you're not Eastern time because everybody else on the East Coast was like, "Yep, it's 9:47," and they're like, a.m. though." So yeah, we,
Yeah.
we, we don't have forever with you because of course the daylight has already gone and midnight is approaching, and you're a working man with a serious team that needs you. So we can't steal you forever. But for those who have no idea who you are, do you mind giving yourself a quick introduction about who you are, why people should care about what you have to say, and where they can follow you on socials if you even want them to? Because I know you're not super active on Twitter, even though you technically have one.
Yeah, that is correct. Okay, so yeah, my name's Daniel. My alias is Coach Seksi. I've been a gamer for my entire life, but it wasn't until recently that I started to pursue Overwatch on professional level. I went for the coaching route. I was a software engineer for about 8 years, and then really fell in love with Overwatch. About a year ago, started to get really serious about it, and that's when I quit my job and started to pursue this stuff. And then back in August of last year, I applied. Actually, I didn't. I didn't apply. Someone just kind of noticed me um, on Blank Esports, which is the Australian team who is in right now Pacific Contenders. I worked with them as an analyst since August, and then around December, January, they asked me to be head coach. I've been head coach ever since. Um, what else? Social media. Yeah, I have Twitch and YouTube and Twitter, all Coach Seksi. But yeah, I'm not really active on that these days, just because I'm so busy with Blank. Yeah.
Now, when you said that you kind of got noticed, was that just off of your YouTube content that somebody noticed and offered you a job? Or was it coaching a different team that eventually landed you that gig with Blank Esports?
I never fully found out the story because I spoke to my manager before about this, and he thinks that it was Gumba actually from LA Valiant because
Oh,
I worked with
interesting.
Gumba.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with him. I was his analyst for OPC season 2, and then yeah, as you know, he's in LA Valiant right now, which is awesome. And I believe it was him. Yeah.
Cool. And what was so you said software engineering for what did you say you were doing for 8 years before this journey started for you?
Yeah. I was a software engineer making like video games, mobile apps, things like that.
So was that a tough transition to go from software engineering into coaching full time, or committing yourself to Overwatch full time? Was that a difficult decision? Have you regretted it at any point in time or anything like that?
Don't regret it for 1 second. It was a bit of a difficult decision. I'm married, so time wise, it was difficult to balance playing and having a job and and spending time with my wife. So it was probably difficult from a financial perspective. Outside of that, it's been a pleasure and I love every second of it. Right now, it's a bit difficult because I'm away from my wife right now, being in Taiwan for this tournament. Um, but but I super enjoy it. And when I was a software engineer, the last couple of years of doing that, I was actually like a more of in a managerial role. So going from there to coaching wasn't so bad.
Now, tell us a little bit about Blank Esports as an organization. So, most people who watching the stream probably only know Blank Esports from the fact that Custa played on Blank for some point in time, and I think Fozzix also subbed for Blank for a period of time. So
Right, at Heroes Rumble. Yep,
yeah,
in December.
most of the North Americans are kind of like, "Yep, Blank exists," and they just like nod their head when they hear that name, but they know pretty much nothing about the organization as a whole. And you have two teams. You have Blank Blue that's competing in Overwatch Contenders Australia, but then you have Blank without the word blue competing
Right.
in Overwatch Contenders Pacific. So
Correct.
give us a little bit of background about blank, why you have two teams, why they're in different regions, what the difference is. Are you guys like you're dominant in both the Australian region and the Pacific region? Is this an org that, is going to become like NRG? Are you guys looking for an Overwatch League spot? Can you even talk about that? Just let
Ooh.
us know more about the Blank Esports as an organization.
Yeah, you have a lot of questions there that I know a little bit about, but probably can't speak
And
about.
if you can't speak about them, just ignore the fact I ever asked them.
Yeah, so let's see, what can I say?
Well, first tell us the difference about blue or blank
Sure,
blue and then blank and why they're in two different regions and what the
sure,
difference
sure.
between the two teams are.
Yeah, so historically, Blink has been in Taiwan and in the Pacific region since early 2017, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and as you probably know, most of that team, actually, I'm not sure if your viewers know, but most of that team from Blink was in the World Cup 2017. That was with like IU Up, ATAR, Kiki, Trill, etc. Gumbo was actually on that team, and another player named RQT. Anyways, so they've been in Pacific for a really long time. It was only until very recently that the organization picked up Blank Blue. As to why, I'm not too sure why. That was a bit above my pay grade, but they, just decided they wanted to acquire more talent in different regions. And obviously, since Blank was from Australia, like the ANZ region, they decided to pick up some guys with more talent, which was Blank Blue.
Awesome. So tell us about like the different regions themselves. So North American Contenders is considered a strong region, mostly because we just import our talent from elsewhere and watch them wither. And Korean Contenders is of course known for being the birthing ground of new metas and new strategies. And European
Yeah.
Contenders has recently been kind of laughed at for their the standard compositions over there being still mostly like Reinhardt compositions on Nimbani is meta in Europe. So Europe is kind of like looked down on being a little bit of a lesser advanced Overwatch region compared to North American and Korean Contenders. So where would you rank the Australian region in terms of all of the Contenders region, and where would you rank the Pacific region? How are those regions healthy? Is there good competition? You're undefeated in the Pacific region of Contenders. Is that because you are good or everyone else sucks?
Oh man, that's a tough question. And to be honest, I hate this question because I feel like whatever I say, people are going to be like, "Nope, you're wrong. You're stupid."
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm used to that. Don't worry about that one. Chat, you're not allowed to tell him
so
he's stupid. You're banned on telling this
right,
guy
so
he's stupid for the next 30 seconds. Go.
so I think that the first question is people, they think, okay, what's better, NA contenders or Korean contenders? Because as you pointed out, NA, imports a lot of talent. So I think the first question is, who is stronger, Korea or NA right now at this very moment? And to that, I would have to say Korean contenders. But it's tough though because I feel like both regions are actually kind of top heavy, right? Like I feel like you have some really strong teams in Korea. Element Mystic being one of them. In my opinion, after watching some of the VODs, I feel like they choked. Like it wasn't so much that Ardeont. Kudos to Ardeont, they did really well. But there was a lot of moments where I feel like they really dropped the ball and they panicked. And I think we'll talk about that later when we go over Lijiang. But I feel like both regions, they have a lot of talent at the top. And then if you kind of look at the bottom half, not so great. And I feel like Pacific is similar to that. There's a handful of, pretty good teams. And then there's a lot of not so great teams. So if we're looking at just the top half of of all the regions, I think there's a good amount of competition. Like I think if all regions, and the other thing you have to consider is like a lot of regions have different restrictions, right? Like Korea, ping is great in Korea wherever you are, like relatively speaking to NA.
Oh
And
yeah,
you
I
have
didn't even
situations.
consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, like you have situations in Australia where even within Australia, I know some of our players, depending on where they live, they'll get 100 ping easily. Like in Australia, like within like playing within Australia, you'll still get 100 ping, which is horrible.
As you do
Right
this,
now,
I'm just going to Google how many Koreas fit in Australia. How many Koreas fit
yeah,
in
and
Australia?
I believe the population of Korea is about 50 million, 50 something, and then Australia is about 25-ish, something around there. Anyways, and then you have situations like I believe Fusion, the academy team. Who are you? He has to play on what, like 200 ping from Korea, which is horrible.
Oh wow.
So, anyways, this is just a long-winded answer, which is basically just to say it's really hard to kind of compare a lot of these regions just because of just all the wild fluctuations and variables that you have to consider. So that's my diplomatic answer, so that I don't have to rank the the regions.
Works for me. Now we always there's kind of two questions that we always like to ask the guests on our stream. The first one is usually we like to ask people to disclose their ranks, so it's kind of a fun game
Mm,
around here to see what the ranks of the
sure.
analysts and the coaches are around here. We know that the people on the Overwatch League who serve as analysts are anywhere between gold and masters, or in the case of Reinforce, of course, an ex pro, and then we have my quite a few Overwatch League analysts right now who are diamond, and some of the best analysts are diamond. So where do you sit on the spectrum?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started playing, that was in season one. That was in China, and I got top 500 with Junkrat, and obviously that didn't mean a whole lot. I got top 500 in season two. Didn't play so much in season three. I did not get top 500 in season four. That was the first season, if you recall, that did the icon thing. You had to actually finish in top
Yes.
500.
Yes.
And that was actually kind of the turning point for me. I kind of told myself, if I can get top 500, with everyone trying really hard, I think I can maybe pursue this professionally, like in some fashion, whether it's an analyst, coach, player, whatever. Um, I was able to do it. I finished in like 280 or something like that as a Zen main. And actually at the time, China was really competitive, in my opinion. I feel like right now, like, interest has dropped off a lot in China, which is a different topic altogether. But I finished, like, I think my SR was 44 something, like 44.30, somewhere around there, if memory serves. Since then, I've played very, very little, but just actually coming to Taiwan, I told myself, okay, I have to play again because I want to see what the Korean servers are like. Um, Unfortunately, I have to play on 90 ping, which sucks, but it's not so bad. Occasionally, I'll get like a Taiwan game or like a Japan game, which is like 12 ping and 50 ping respectively. But obviously, the majority of the games are on Korea. And actually, as of 2 days ago, I just hit Grandmaster, and I was like, "Oh, that's good enough." I hit like 4,004, I believe, and I told myself, "All right, like I'm good. Like I don't need to play anymore."
Good. You're kind of like me. I placed in Grandmaster. I was like, well, we're gonna focus on streaming and coaching this season, and just my
Yeah,
account's been
exactly.
just decaying right
Oh,
back
and
down.
and yeah, and sorry, the reason I mentioned this as well is your viewers probably don't know this, and actually, I'm not sure if you know this, but China is like a totally separate region. You have to buy the game to specifically play in China. So
Oh,
I had to
really?
buy the game. Yeah, so I had to buy the game again, and I had a fresh account. So like I had to grind it all the way up. It wasn't like, oh, I placed back in GM. I had to grind from. I placed in platinum like 2,500 SR or 25 something, and then I had to grind all the way. So it took me quite a while during while I've been here in Taiwan to get that rank.
And a lot of people do underestimate how much of a grind it really is to build up.
Oh, it's so bad.
Uh,
Like it. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
like I did. It's kind of I placed a new account in silver because I wanted to climb to Grandmaster playing support only. Because
Right.
very early on in the stream, it was one of the most common statements or complaints was that it's impossible to hard carry on support, which I vehemently
Oh, of course
disagreed
not.
with.
No.
So
No.
I started in silver and solo queued all the way up to Grandmaster, and on average, it took me 1 hour to gain 60 SR. Uh,
Yeah.
so it was a
That's pretty.
long
That's
journey,
pretty
and of
good.
course that number slowed down as I got closer and closer to my target goal. So
Yeah.
I usually say that people really underestimate the grind that's involved in Overwatch. Even if you are a GM player right now,
Right.
if you're Masters, that's still 20, 40 hours of playtime until you reach Grandmaster. So
Exactly. Yeah. And to be fair though, like for me, I've played very little in the past like 6 months. So if I was still, at like my prime, so to speak, I could have done the grind much faster. But going back to what you were saying about support, yeah, like if I recall, I was looking at my stats, I had like maybe 8 hours on Zen and maybe 3 hours on Anna, with like 70, 80% win percentage. So I feel like you actually can hard carry on those heroes. Like people underestimate, 5 balls and clutch sleep darts and
oh
things
yeah,
like that.
absolutely. You
Absolutely
don't
carry.
carry in the explicit ways in the fact that you clicked on heads or killed everyone, but you just consistently get so much more value than any other support player in the game that your team has a
Exactly.
significant advantage. The way I like to kind of um, talk about it is the fact that the DPS is the force, but the supports are the force multiplier. So if you have,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a support or if you have a DPS player who gets like a value of 100, or the enemy, sorry, if you have a DPS player who's like, theoretical value is like 100, but the opponent has a DPS whose theoretical value is 120, as long as
Mm-hmm.
you can support your DPS player enough, they can still outperform the superior opponent. So that's the way I like to think about the
Yeah,
support
and
matchup.
and not just that, but obviously this doesn't maybe apply too much to like let's say a Mercy, but specifically in the case of Zen and Anna, you can shut down enemy flankers and DPS so hard, like ridiculously, especially at at the lower levels. If you know what you're doing, you can just shut down a Tracer and make her absolutely useless, and just by virtue of that, you'll probably just win the game.
So the second question that we like to ask people on this stream is whether or not they believe in talent. So it's kind of like one of our other ongoing debates or whatnot. So do you
Mm-hmm.
think that talent is a thing? Do you think that it's primarily practice? Have you seen anybody who just kind of like picked up in the game was amazing, or do all the people that you know who are just amazing at the game are through dedicated practice, hard work, and just improving slowly, embracing the grind? So what's
Right.
what's the answer? Talent or
Uh,
practice?
I would actually use your the analogy you just gave me about the force and the force multiplier. I think that's very apt here. I think that someone has a certain number, let's say some numerical value like 100, like you said, that's talent, and then depending on how hard they work, that gets multiplied in some way.
That's a very simple answer. I like it. Do you want to jump right into the actual analysis?
Sure, let's go for it.
Awesome. So we're going to be taking a look at Overwatch contenders Korea, Element Mystic versus Ardeont. Now let's just get the
Yay.
screen share set up here. Do share. Okay.
What does this button do?
What does this button do? That's never a good thing.
I'm just messing with the screen share. It looks good. Okay, I think I got it.
Okay, so Nepal was the first map, so we're going to take a look at the first map, which was Nepal, and then we're going to take a look at the last map, which was Lijiang. And then I assume that's all you have time for, because these reviews are not exactly the shortest things in the world.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, you had a full day of scrims and
Yes,
VOD reviews, so I
absolutely.
am
So
totally brain dead right now. So my
we'll
apologies to your viewership.
oh no, I'm sure they don't mind. Okay, so and I'm just gonna skip to a random point in this VOD and just play just to make sure I can get the audio levels set correctly. So you just give me a second, chat.
It's just a hair away.
Do I
from
get audio?
completing.
Oh, I
Just
don't
need to
get audio.
O2 off
That's
of that.
okay.
Okay. Do you not get audio?
I don't see a button for it, but to be honest, I don't think it's a huge deal.
Yeah, probably not. Oh, yeah, if there's just commentators, we're not hearing. It's not like a scrim where we would actually need to care about the
Right.
callouts. So awesome. Well, let's. Do you watch much Korean contenders?
Here and there, here and there.
So
Yeah.
what do you know about Element Mystic? So I've personally heard, and the reason why I started watching Korean contenders is because everyone kept talking about this Element Mystic team with the 16-year-old prodigy Sparkle, who was a team that could, trounce the vast majority of the Overwatch League teams. So
And then they lose.
and then they lose. So
Yeah.
what's your did you know about Element Mystic before the hype started? What's your opinion on them?
Yeah, so one of the benefits we have being in Taiwan is that we get the great pleasure of being able to scrim all of these teams. So we've been able to scrim actually both these teams, Element Mystic and
So you're
Ardeont.
like Blank has scrim experience against Element Mystic.
Yes, and
Very
I don't really
interesting.
like to talk about scrims,
Absolutely,
too much.
That's
Just
fine.
that we've scrimmed them. But yeah, they are an extremely exceptional team. They are. I can't say enough good things about how talented they are. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I think there was a lot of panic, and a lot of times what happens with a really good team like Element Mystic is they're not used to losing, and when you put them in a really stressful situation for the first time, they panic. And I think we'll go over that when we see Lijiang. And so I really think that they underperformed here and they basically choked because they are an exceptional team.
Cool. So we are going to look at two maps, and we're going to look at Nepal, which was the first map, when, of course, they go up 1-0. And then we're going to look at the fifth map, which is again Koth, this time Lijiang, where they lose as Ardeont completes the reverse sweep. So the reason we're looking at these two maps is you want to have the two basically as similar as possible so we can compare and contrast Ardeont and Element Mystic's performance across the two maps. So enough of that. Let's get into it. Button. There we go.
We can see Seksi excel on the
Okay.
McCree, which is where he has been going.
And this screen share business is a little bit, it creeps me out a little bit.
It creeps you out. Why?
I don't know, I can't explain it, but it creeps me out a little bit.
You're just peering into another man's computer?
Yeah, like I'm worried that something's gonna show up on your screen. I'm gonna be like, oh, sorry, I'm sorry I saw that.
Don't worry, we leak all that stuff on just completely on my own without any prompting. So. Anyway, so just a little bit about the team itself. Again, I don't know many of the players. I've heard great things about Guard. Supposedly, he's the best Sombra player in the world. And then Sparkle, of course, who actually doesn't look to be playing in this first game. So Sparkle actually isn't on the Nepal roster. But Sparkle is, of course, the superstar god-tier DPS that everybody is just going crazy over. Are there any other players besides Guard and Sparkle from Element Mystic that we should really be keeping an eye on?
I think Dako's pretty good, or Dako. I'm not sure if it's Dako or Dako. I'm not a big fan of a lot of his self-destructs. Outside of that, I think he's a super solid player. I remember, I think we were watching his Hollywood VOD on this series,
Yep.
and he does this super sick juke on a Roadhog hook, which is absolutely unbelievable. If your viewers have time, I'd suggest watching. It was EM's attack. Point A Hollywood. So just watch that, and you'll see.
Do you want to
like,
switch to that right now, since we're not reviewing?
No,
Okay.
it's fine. I'll just point that out, just
Okay.
because it, keep in mind. Yeah.
Cool. Now, Nepal Sanctum map, we usually see some sort of combination of Orisa on, whether it's Orisa Hog or Orisa Diva. Just for the people who may have
All right,
not
here we go.
seen a
See,
Sanctum map
Locks in
recently,
the McCree.
why
Guard is
would a
on
team
the
be
Sombra.
running,
This
why are we
is-
seeing more
this
Orisa
matchup
Diva
right now
lately
we've got with
instead of
Climax
Orisa
already on-
Hog? Ooh,
Yeah. So, and actually, I think you'll see this on a lot of different maps. Actually, a lot more Orisa Diva. The first thing that comes to mind is the fact that you can do the suck bomb combo, which is really good, especially on maps like Junkertown. It's possible here, but I don't think we see that this series, if my memory serves correctly. And then just that Diva's more flexible, right? That's one of the reasons why Diva is still good actually after this nerf. I guarantee she'll still be a pick that
Absolutely.
is as a default. Like, it's just going to happen. She just offers so much flexibility because of her shift. DM is an amazing ability. You can eat, ultimates and whatnot. So yeah, it's just more flexibility. Whereas the Hog, you really need to be landing those hooks,
Mhm.
Otherwise it's kind of hard to sell the Hog.
You expend so much effort into making sure that you have that halt hook combo. If the halt hook combo doesn't pull off, then the extra utility that Diva provides, you suddenly start really wanting that if you can't get an initial pick
Exactly.
with the halt hook
Exactly.
combo. Now, Sombra is not traditionally a character we see run on Nepal. So, first of all, why is Sombra not usually run? And then why is Element Mystic running Sombra? Is it just because Guard is so good at this character? Or is there a different reason? Has Element Mystic found some reason why Sombra is so strong on Sanctum when almost no other team runs this hero?
Yeah, actually, so in Korea and in scrims a lot that we've been having, Sombra is actually quite popular on Nepal, on Village, on Shrine, on Sanctum. Actually, I would say that she's probably least popular specifically on this of all the Nepals.
Absolutely.
If you've been following a bit of like Korea, Pacific, and even Chinese contenders, there's a lot of Sombra. EMP is just ridiculously strong. That's basically the reason. It's one of those ultimates that can literally just win you a fight outright.
Okay, let's see how they pull it off.
McCree with
Yeah.
EMP flexibility
And
and
I'll pause it if I see something, but if you see something, feel free to just say pause, and I will pause the video as if I was a voice-activated remote control, and you can discuss whatever it is you want to discuss.
Okay, sounds good.
ability versus long range.
Yeah,
on the
so
Widow.
right here,
It's gonna be
and yeah,
difficult to
Widow's
break
something that's starting to
through.
become a little bit more
Coco
meta
setup on the Orisa
in
if
this
they
part of
take
the world
first
as well.
flip. So, very
So
important
right
that
here
Ardeont
we have
grabs
EM
point
just
A,
pushing
or
this
sorry,
pillar
grabs the first
side.
point.
And actually, can you pause it?
Element
So
right here is
when I
good.
first saw this, yeah, this is fine. I was actually really curious. I was thinking, why is the Kree dueling that Widow? Like, this is so strange to me. But then I realized both teams are running Mercy, and you'll typically see Widow with the Mercy just because it makes that 1v1 less volatile. But then I thought about it, like, this actually functions similar to a Widow here, where if the McCree does get picked, he actually can get rezzed. And as you can see with his positioning right now, the Mercy actually can just res him out of loss of the Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're also playing now. One of the reasons why you don't normally see that McCree taking that duel against the Widowmaker is because McCree has a very significant fall off, right? He starts to have a damage fall off past 22 meters, but the Sanctum map itself is a lot closer quarters, so that McCree's damage fall off is reduced, as well as the damage boost, and probably the Discord from the Zenyatta, depending on where it is going to kind of make up for a lot of that fall off damage to the fact that that duel is a lot more even.
Right, exactly. And yeah. And just another thing I want to mention too is notice the health bars and the ultimate charge from O2 Ardeont's Diva and Tracer. So I was trying to watch this and I was trying to figure out where exactly they went. I think they go books, and just notice how their ult charge just does not go up very much. While on the other hand, if you look at guard, he's going to get a ton of ultimate charge, which means he's doing a lot of damage, and they're gonna force rotation right now. Sorry, EM is gonna force O2 Ardeont to rotate. So specifically this Widow and Mercy, they're gonna have to go back into glass. Sorry, I'm not sure what your callouts are, but basically back in the room from her to her right side, and then when that happens, Element Mystic is gonna collapse onto their Orisa. So yeah.
So
that's the play.
Now here's in this frame we're looking at, we can't see where Element Mystic's Orisa is. Now usually when teams run this, the Orisa and the Diva play together. So first off, the Orisa has gone to the point, I assume?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
And now why is Element Mystic not playing their Orisa and their Diva together like teams in Ranked, for example, normally would?
Yeah, so I think their goal here was to strong push this side. So as you mentioned of the fall off with McCree, I think they really want pillars. Like they're really looking to get that. And then the moment they probably recognized that they were running Widow, they thought, okay, we can't just back up. That would be death. We need to get in her face and force them out. So I think a lot of it was just recognizing that they could take this space pretty much uncontested if the Diva went here.
Okay, let's keep watching. Let me know if you want to pause.
Yep.
Mystic though, so they can control this and utilize.
So right here we see the forced rotation, and while this is happening, guard just destroys Orisa. While again, if you look at Diva and Tracer from O2 Ardeont's side, look at that ult charge. They did practically nothing while EM was just popping off. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that Climax never got a single pick, and obviously that could have happened, but it didn't. So they just straight out
again. Climax was dueling the Mercy, McCree, Zenyatta core while being defense matrixed by Dako. You know, you said that Humbaba doesn't have a lot of ult charge, but he actually has more ult charge than Dako because Dako is being basically a DM bot protecting the McCree.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and if you look at Climax's alt charge, he was probably just smacking Dako in the face a bunch of times, like in between the DMs. But that's not what you're looking for, right?
Yeah,
you want those picks on the squishes.
Yeah, just putting some body shots into a Diva mech really isn't going to do much, especially when there's a Mercy right behind the wall, just out of LOS healing up that damage, right? So the only thing you're doing at that point is feeding the Mercy Valkyrie. And if we're looking at Element Mystic's ult charge on the Mercy, 34%. So that's pretty much what's happened. Is they've traded Infrasight ult charge for Valk ult charge.
Yeah, and credit to Yakpung, the Orisa from Ardeont. I think, if I recall correctly, he kind of falls back a bit, which allows Rain to get that res, so they are able to kind of bring this back. If I remember correctly, I think they end up losing. Ardeont ends up losing, but they do a pretty good job of actually holding on for longer than I expected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's keep going.
Rain will be able to bring him back in, but Element Mystic are pushing for you onto the point,
Poking,
getting that initial cap ready to come through.
She's gonna get into
it's
real
just
fast.
A hair away from completing. Just need to get O2 off of that one. They're trying to fight back. In the meantime, Seksi, flank position coming into the side.
So now we've got the more traditional setup with both Divas and both Orisas kind of on the point, trying to just keep their ground and whatnot. And when we have this sort of like mirror matchup, the teams are more or less the same. Like we have the DPS themselves, but we have the same support core and the same tank core. So in this sort of like mirror matchup, when both teams have set up on the point, what is going to be the decision maker, or what is going to stop this infinite poke cycle and cause one team to actually wipe the other?
Well, it could be a number of things. As you can see, EMP is coming up, so that's going to be a huge decider. If she gets that soon, that's going to matter a lot. Whereas walls from Widow is not going to do a whole lot in this particular situation. As you can see, this McCree can actually loss her pretty freaking hard. And actually, in a moment, he's going to make a decision I disagree with a little bit. He actually pokes. He goes for a duel with the Widow, when I think he could have just been shield busting and just destroy that Orisa, especially since they just demeched Humbaba. And I think they have a res advantage because if I recall, I think Ardeont just used their res. So in this situation, I think that Element Mystic just needs to keep shield busting and literally just go for that Orisa or whatever's in front of them and just kill it. But again, EMP is the thing that I would look out for right here.
Now this is actually, let's take a question from chat. There is talking back to when Climax was just putting some shots into Dako because Dako was protecting the McCree, the Mercies, and Yata core. The question from chat is, would you have rathered Climax not to shoot the D.Va if the D.Va was the only thing they could land a shot on? So we were talking about how traded basically Infrasight ult charge for Valkyrie ult charge. Should Climax have not shot at all if the only target was the D.Va?
Ooh, that's a really good question. In situations like this, I think that it's really important to keep because I've heard that argument before, right? It's like, oh, there's certain situations where you shouldn't feed a support charge, which is absolutely a thing, right? You have to be very careful of that. Back in the old days when we had Resurrect, I can recall professional players, like I forget who it was, but they would, kind of be losing a fight and then just instead of just taking it off the map or just dying quickly, they would just keep fighting and then instantly give Resurrect to the Mercy. That being said, in this particular case, this is a rollout. So you're trying to apply as much pressure as you can. If you get a couple of good shots, then, it forces the D.Va to go back, and then maybe the Kree has to peek and you kill him, or maybe the Kree can't peek because he wants to wait for a D.Va to wait. So on rollouts, I think you're trying to do as much damage as you can and apply as much pressure as you can. So I actually do think it's worth to, even if you're charging Valk here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's not to the point where if you don't shoot anything, you're basically a non-factor. Whereas if you shoot things and you apply pressure, that pressure has the potential to create opportunities because you're forcing them to play in a way that they don't get, headshot or demeched or anything like that. So yeah, I think that the higher pressure overall that a team can put out, whether it's damage, sustain, whatever form of pressure you have. Even Widow is kind of like a psychological pressure because every time you walk into her LOS, you have a certain percentage chance of just instantly getting fucking gibbed in the face.
Right.
So like, there's pressure comes in different forms, whether it's a threat, even if it's a very low % chance of happening. If the the value of that kill is extremely high, then it's something that person is not going to want to do. But if you are you're trading off the almost guaranteed result is that they're going to get some Valcult charge, but the potential upside is that you maybe do land a double headshot on the D.Va, or you force that D.Va to back off, or you force the McCree to duel you without the protection of the D.Va. So the pressure, although you're trading ult charge, can create other better opportunities for your team as a whole. So
yeah,
great.
and
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, and I was underselling Walls a little bit earlier just because I was comparing it to EMP, which is just godly. But, Walls actually, if he does land, if he just, hits a couple more shots, better, he gets Walls soon. And, Walls is one of those abilities where, yeah, Widow can end up popping off with Walls. It's much harder versus an Orisa comp, but it's possible. So, yeah, it's just a percentage chance at that point.
Now, there's one guy in the chat who wants me to ask you the question. He's posted it a couple times. He says, can we get a quick comment about Matchy Esports support player Restia from Seksi?
Oh, I
feel free to pass. I don't know the context behind why this question is being asked, so feel free to pass if you don't want to say anything.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I'm not super familiar with his play. He's in the other... I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was in the previous season of OPC. OCP? No, OCP. No, OPC, sorry. And we played against him. This season, however, he's in the opposite bracket, so I haven't watched much of his gameplay. So I'm very sorry to that viewer. I don't have much knowledge there.
Okay. Let's keep her going. Shield breaking, and here you transition to fighting the Widow, right? Takes a shot, forced to retreat to the pack.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he had to do that. I think he could have just kept shield busting. Watch how quickly this Orisa gets melted. Actually, can you pause it?
Farther back?
If you wouldn't mind, yeah, if you wouldn't mind going back just a little bit.
Let me know when you want it paused.
Maybe like 5 seconds.
Did I go back? Oh, it didn't go back. Go back.
I don't think so.
Go.
Just a teeny bit.
Go
Maybe
back.
like okay. Yeah, right here. So go ahead and play it.
Right here's good?
Play it a little bit more, and I'll, yeah. Okay, maybe like 2 seconds.
Now
Sorry,
flip
this
it
is hard.
again.
Okay,
Back
this
to
is fine. So this Orisa, look at how much damage she took. If
Mhm.
that McCree hadn't went for that duel, the shield goes down faster. Orisa gets discorded earlier. McCree even maybe headshots her a little bit, and she probably dies here. So again, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that he took that duel with the Widow.
And this Orisa is almost out of her armor when she's getting
Yeah.
pocketed by the Mercy. She's in armor, and she used Fortify. So yeah, McCree there, breaking the shield earlier, as well as punishing her through her armor faster. Because McCree,
Right.
it is not really affected very much by armor, right? The higher the burst damage, the less armor actually
Right.
applies. So the fact that the Orisa is getting pelted by a lot of high ROF damage from the fact that it's the other Orisa shooting her in Fortify, those shots are doing a dramatically reduced amount of damage compared to what
Right.
a McCree shot would be reduced down to. So yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with you that kind of taking that duel with the Widow, eating a damage boosted body shot, being forced to retreat to the Mega at an opportune time where you could have just contributed to that shield damage. And
Exactly.
like a lot of people think that having the Diva instead of the Roadhog when you are playing like the Diva Orisa combo reduces your shield break. But really the only reason that Diva does less damage than a Roadhog is past 10 meters. But if you're within the Diva's fall off range of the opposing shield, which you would be in this situation, maybe not on like a
Right.
Junkertown map where the Roadhog would be having to use as like projected right clicks or anything like that. But if you're like within 10 meters of the opposing Orisa shield, Diva does something like 660 damage to an opposing Orisa shield over the course of its life, out of a total 900 or something like that. So just
Yeah,
a
it's pretty
Diva
high.
and Orisa together can pretty much break an Orisa's shield. So
Yeah, and there was Zen, Zen left clicks flying, and and actually, what else? Zen. Yeah, actually, I guess that's it. Because I think Sombra was flanking during this. So yeah, that shield would have gone down much quicker if McCree had just helped. And actually, would you mind playing it for just another second? Because I think the Orisa gets even lower than this.
the Orisa ends up
Hold up in
150 or so.
Exactly. If you can imagine just maybe one shot to the shield and 1 or 2 shots on Orisa, this Orisa's dead.
the air, trying to get the hit there, and guard goes down.
Sightline advantage for Climax means they pushed away.
Yeah, Dako does take out Violet off screen, and unless this
Yep.
headshot lands onto
Shots in on ejection. He
Jeksi,
goes dangerously
then
low
I
here
think
with
that this
Valkyrie
should
up in
be
the air
our,
still. Needs that regen,
well,
but he's
maybe.
not gonna get it. Climax shuts him
Yeah, I
out.
didn't see
EM
who
does
trans
turn the
second.
second.
Still has not been captured
So
yet by guard.
this is the thing, though. It's the EMP, right? And EMP comboed with any ultimate, Riptire, Death Blossom, Visor, Blade, literally combos with anything in the game, and it's almost a guaranteed win. So yeah, that's why I was kind of selling the EMP up a little bit earlier, just because, especially on maps like this where there's open space and there's not a whole lot of like junk in the way, like maybe like Junkertown, it's so easy to get really clean EMPs. Even if you just hit 2 or 3 people, it's almost always a guaranteed win. Unless you like.
The thing
Go ahead.
that I always say is that my favorite combo with EMP is liberal applications of the W key. It's like they don't have any,
Yeah.
they don't have any abilities that can prevent the onslaught, right? You have just regular abilities. You don't have to combo EMP with ultimates in order to have it be extremely successful. But if you do have an ultimate, it should be pretty much a guaranteed win because they can't do anything but take it. So now
Right.
with Element Mystic now holding the point, the only ultimate they have or are coming up to, they've got Bomb coming up to Bongo, whereas Ardeont is actually better off in the ult department. They're coming up to the same 2 ultimates, Bomb and Bongo, but they have Valkyrie. So if you're Ardeont, how are you going to be able to retake this point? Because Sanctum is notoriously difficult to retake, especially against an Orisa that's set up on the point.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
how is Ardeont, well, not how is Ardeont going to do it, but how should Ardeont go about taking back this point?
Yeah, so there's actually 2 things you could do right now. The first thing is you could actually swap to a Winston, just because Orisa is really hard to retake with, and then compounded by the fact that you're going into an Orisa, so it just, it's kind of like doubly bad. That being said, she has Bongo, so you probably want to factor that in. So I personally here would actually keep the Orisa. However, I would do it differently. They actually go from outside. Are your viewers familiar with outside?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what they do. They actually go through outside and they just go onto point. So that distance, it may not seem like it's a long distance to walk, but it is an eternity. It's like 2 seconds, maybe slightly less than 2 seconds, where your Orisa is going to have to walk into fire, and she's going to have to be either DM'd the entire time, which is going to deplete all of DM, or just take a shit ton of damage. So it's kind of a lose-lose. So what I would have done in this situation is gone through books, through Cubby, and then walked underneath to get onto point with the Orisa. That's going to be
so kind of like
best
going through
bet here.
horseshoe right to the point and coming in from underneath.
Yeah, horseshoe. Yeah, so yeah, and then from there you just do an immediate bongo, and then your Widow probably peaks delayed. She probably comes out, maybe a second or two after the Orisa pops, or depending on circumstances, she might see an opportunity. She might go for an early kill, but in theory, I'd like her to come out delayed from the Orisa. And then you just probably go for a shield busting battle.
Now, one of the viewers in chat asked a question, so we're gonna just kind of go on a small tangent here. But he says, as a new watcher of esports, I have trouble following matches. So if you're brand new, let's say you're a platinum player or something, like middle of the pack Overwatch player, you enjoy the competitive side, but you're just coming in, you've only started playing in Season 8, you got less than 200 hours in the game, and you want to start watching Overwatch League. What is like the 1 or 2 tips you could give new viewers of the Overwatch League or Overwatch contenders to kind of understand and follow the matches? Should they be looking at positioning primarily, ultimates, compositions? What's 1 or 2 things that a new player should focus on to try and understand the flow of professional matches?
Sure. If you're, kind of quote unquote serious about kind of, improving your enjoyment, maybe one thing I would recommend is actually muting the sound, the audio, and perhaps kind of, talking through what's happening on screen. I wouldn't do this all the time because there's tons of enjoyment and, and listening to the casting, especially with so much talent out there. But, every once in a while you could actually mute it and just kind of talk through it and just talk out loud and just look at everything you just mentioned. In between fights, I would probably look at ultimates. I'd say, okay, who has the ultimate advantage? And, and then I'd ask questions like, how does, Element Mystic use self-destruct in this case? Like, how would I use that ultimate? How would I leverage that? And as Ardeont, I would say, okay, they don't have any. Well, sorry, no, they do. They have Valk and, like you said, Bongo and Diva ultimate coming up. Similar question: how would I win the fight with those ultimates?
Let's take it even more basic. So you play Mei. You're a Mei one trick. You have no concept of what the other heroes do beyond their names and what they look like. How do you still enjoy and appreciate the game?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, my bad. I went a little bit too complicated there. That's a really good question. Give me one moment to think about that.
Feel free to take your time. Chat, if you do have any other follow-up questions, we'll just kind of take a quick tangent here if you have any comments on the topic.
So, yeah, okay, so how much knowledge are we assuming this player had? I think you said like less than 200.
They like Mei, and they just get annoyed at the things that kill Mei.
Oh man, I love that.
They think McCree is dumb and OP.
Yeah.
And they get annoyed when things don't get frozen. That is their level of knowledge of the game.
So, man, that's a tough one. I am totally stumped by that question.
I'll give you more time to think about it.
Would you mind giving me some help? Like, can you maybe?
I was interested in your insight.
Oh no!
Like I have my own comments, but and if they always hear me talk about shit, so
right. So go ahead.
I was gonna give you another kind of like a softball while you had more time to mull it over. Do you want to take a crack at it?
Let me just take a crack at it from this angle. So for me, it's actually interesting because I'm a long what's the word? I have played games my entire life and I love games. So, for me, I just jump into a game and I want to immediately learn like every single detail.
Oh yeah, you're like me. I kind of, when I installed StarCraft, it was like the 20th anniversary. They're like, StarCraft's free. I was like, hey, I'll finally check out StarCraft. I kind of like took like 30 minutes in the tutorial, and then it clicked like how in depth this game was, and I was like, I could lose my entire life to this game, and just uninstalled immediately. I was like, nope, I'm out of here. So I'm like you, like I get into a new game and I want to learn everything about it. But there's some people who just want to, there are legitimately people who, one trick heroes because they look pretty or they have a voice actor that they like from a previous game or something like that. There's a very large portion of the population that just legitimately does not care much about the, the competitive side of the game. But maybe they heard that a pro player, we'll just use Muma as an example, pro LGBT, maybe that's something that you care about, and then because of that you follow Muma, and because of that you start ending up watching a Houston Outlaws game despite only ever playing like arcade. So
Right.
I'm sure there are people like that. So how does a person like that kind of enjoy the Overwatch League? And they're going to enjoy it in different ways than an analyst like you or I do.
Yeah. So I think so. I'm thinking about it, and I think the best way you can enjoy the game the most is to avoid everything at the top that you see, right? Like basically the ultimate charge and like the health bars and all these things, because realistically, if I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a new player, that would be extremely overwhelming. Um, Maybe the one thing you do look at is like the thing in the top at the middle that shows like percentages. Like if I would imagine the player is at least familiar with like Koth and payload and things like that. So I think the thing they should be focusing on the most is positioning. Just kind of, especially when they swap to bird's eye, it's just kind of watch the movements of how quickly, especially professional players, how quickly the teams get into position, how they rotate, how they kind of just do this dance with each other, and then just kind of enjoy the explosion when they just kind of smash into each other's heads. That being said, there's also certain maps where there's kind of this more elegant dance where they're kind of shooting at each other from a distance, and you have really long drawn out fights. And there's fights like when you're just dive and it's just head on collision. So for me, if I was new, I would try to enjoy like the engagements, like fights getting set up, and just try to focus on that, because that to me tells the most story of like how a fight is going to unfold. So that's my best answer I can come up with.
Awesome. Now, I'm not sure if you follow Reddit. Do you spend a lot of time on Reddit?
You mean like Overwatch Reddit or Reddit?
Yeah, Overwatch Reddit.
Overwatch Reddit, not so much, but enough to keep in the loop on news.
So I got a bit in trouble on Reddit because there was a clip of me.
Do?
I said that Widowmaker was boring to watch.
Oh no!
Yeah, Reddit,
how could you say that?
Reddit.
How dare you have an opinion, Jayne?
Reddit did not enjoy that sentiment. So I just as a disclaimer, I appreciate that there is a strategic component to Widowmaker. I think that the strategic component of Widowmaker is lesser compared to other heroes, and I don't find Widowmaker clicking heads very interesting to watch. So that is my very biased opinion. Do you share that opinion? Do you like seeing Saya player, Pine, Carpe, Linkser click heads? What's your opinion on Widowmaker?
Oh
and
man,
feel
so you're
free,
gonna throw me...
feel free to disagree with me. You don't play softball, don't suck up. Tell me your honest opinion.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I think that there are extremely interesting characters in this game, just the way they work and the way they interact with each other. I'll take Sombra as an example. She's one of my favorite heroes to work on as like a coach and an analyst, because she is unbelievably complex in the way that she fits into a team composition. Like the difference between a Tracer Genji dive and a Tracer Sombra dive is astronomically different. Like you cannot believe how much work I have put in to kind of working with Blank and other teams. Well, no, actually in this case specifically Blank, to make that work, right? So then you have someone like Widow, who it makes the game a little bit more like watered down, I guess, like from a strategic standpoint, right? Like as a coach, as an analyst, from my perspective, it makes the game a little bit easier to digest and to talk about. So I'll give the example of Ilios Ruins. That map, because Widow is so dominant on, it really restricts a lot of the things that you can do on that map. That being said, we've kind of dabbled with things you can do on that map into a Widow without having your own Widow, but it's tough. Whereas you have someone like Sombra, who there's a lot of things the team has to do and the opponents have to do, and like there's like this whole dance that teams do with translocate, like since we're tangenting a bit. One of the cues to do a dive when you're versus a Sombra is when your enemy Sombra is behind poking and she translocates out. That is a really important time for you as a team to do your dive very soon, because her translocate's down for 4 seconds. And there's so much more. So if I were just a long-winded answer, I think Widow strategically doesn't offer as much as other characters in the game. So I do share the opinion with you.
One other follow-up question before we get back into watching Ardeont attempt to retake from Element Mystic. People in chat, even while you were explaining that, said that they found Sombra boring. So and on Reddit, no, boring to watch. They didn't say play, boring to watch. So
if we're talking about an entertaining aspect, I totally agree. Like I can see, not for me personally, but for someone else, I could totally see how awesome it is to see a Widow just popping 3 heads and you're like, oh my god, that's so cool. And that is cool. Like I totally get that. But for people like you and me, who we want like the more complex interactions between heroes, and we appreciate that kind of thing. That to us is more interesting. And I totally understand that watching a Sombra go in for a fatty EMP and just kill and clean up the whole team is maybe boring to some people, but for you and me, we appreciate the setup, right? What it took for that Sombra to get into that position, to get the EMP, to get the stealth timing, and to translocate. Or maybe she didn't translocate. Maybe she, because there's different ways to do an EMP, and they are drastically different. So like these little nuances that maybe you and I appreciate, but someone else who doesn't spend thousands of hours on the game would be like, oh yeah, that looks boring.
There is no way anyone in chat is going to believe that I did not prep you for that answer.
Oh man.
And I lied. I do have one more follow-up question.
Okay.
How much coaching, you talked about working with Sombra players and working with teams to fit them into this ecosystem, and I've been experiencing myself for the last 2 weeks trying very deliberately to plan out to the nth degree how exactly to execute Sombra dives, where you threaten the timing of hacking health packs or threatening tanks, how to hack, who to hack to initiate the dive, all this fun stuff.
Yep.
Now that can be coached. How much coaching, and what is your approach to coaching a Widowmaker player? And I assume you've never had a Widowmaker one trick on your team, because that's just not a thing, unless you're like Saya player. But when it comes to coaching Widowmaker or a Widowmaker player, how in depth can you go, or how in depth do you go? What is the approach to coaching a Widowmaker player?
Yeah. So based on what we were talking about earlier, well, okay, I don't want to give a too long-winded of an answer because I feel like I might be rambling on here. But
no, you're doing good. You're doing good. I would have cut you off if you rambled, but your answers are great. So
okay. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So with Widow, a lot of it is obviously positioning, which is true of every hero in the game, right? So a lot of it has to do with picking the right angles, timing, making sure you're kind of peaking at the right moments. And I would say the vast majority of it, though, is making sure that you're grappling correctly, like not only in the right positions, but at the right times. Because I've seen Widowmakers use a grapple, and they didn't realize that there was a Winston or a Genji right next to them, and they're dead. Another thing is Widowmine, making sure that your Widowmine placements are perfect. Like if you can, I would highly suggest to all Widowmaker players, especially on like defense and on rollouts of all the maps, like like the first points of all the maps, think about where you want, like very critically think about where you want your first Widow Mine to be, because that first Widow Mine or Venom Mine, whatever it's called, can set the tone for the rest of the match, right? Because if you get that first pick because of the walls it gives you, or if you can just delay a tracer who wanted to be there in a certain location at a certain time, and you delay that with the Venom Mine, that's huge. So Venom Mine placements are huge. I can't stress that enough. Making sure not only your grapples are in the right places, but also the right times. And then just, general positioning, just, general map awareness, making sure that you are not overextended, being too greedy, that you're not being too passive. And actually, just going back to Climax, like what he was doing, and I know some reviewers were asking this, don't be afraid to shoot tanks. And also, do not be afraid to shoot shields. I can't stress that enough, especially... I was having this conversation recently with one of our players in the last couple of days. I forget, it's all kind of a blur, but we were talking about the importance of Winston bubbles when you're running dive versus when you're running Widow. So when you're running dive, Winston bubbles aren't the worst thing in the world. You can actually just walk past them and just blow up shit. However, in a Widow comp, when you see a bubble, you have to destroy that Widow, because if you're assuming that you're playing a smart Winston, which if you're a scrim or a professional player, you should be. You can assume that Winston put that bubble with that Widow in mind. So very, very critical that when you're in a Widow comp and you're versus a Winston, you blow up that bubble, because 90% of the time that's going to be in her way. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back into it. Great answers. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, I accidentally unfull screened. So here you're talking about... Now this is
the retake. Oh.
Yeah, this is this is the area you call books, and then this is cubby, right? Those are the two callouts you use for these?
So cubby's underneath. So yeah, I call
cubby's
cubby,
underneath. We call that horseshoe.
Okay, that's fine. I can
so
call
any
horseshoe.
Any like C-shaped, kind of like the King's Row third, that little place with the mega, any kind of like C-shaped hallway or area we usually refer to as horseshoe around here. And then
so this whole area is horseshoe. So upper
no,
and
the
lower?
underneath part. The underneath part. So this part we normally call connector. It just connects
I
the
see,
two
okay.
sides. So a few different
Gotcha.
callouts, but either is fine. I think as long as we. So cubby is the underneath part, kind of
I'll just
connecting
use
to the
your
point.
callouts. I don't want to
Okay.
confuse your users, so your viewers. So connector and horseshoe. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted them to push this out actually, and also, so notice that they just forced this translocate. So they should be going right now, in my opinion, to connector into horseshoe.
Going. Okay, so not triggering a dive based on that translocator, but them translocating gives you
Right.
an opportunity of 4 seconds to push in uncontested.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I know you said dive, but unfortunately, Element Mystic is not, or sorry, O2 is not running like basically any sort of dive. Like
Mhm.
you could, I guess, dive with Tracer and Diva a bit,
Yeah.
but with a composition like this, probably not.
Yeah, it was just that while we
So-
were paused, you had referenced the translocator as the trigger for a dive. So,
Oh,
what does translocator trigger in an Orisa Diva comp?
I mean, it's a similar concept. You're just looking to get space, right? So I think, in my opinion, if they had gone horseshoe, it would have been a little bit better. I forget exactly how this plays out, so we can take a look.
Okay.
Did a DM, she gets into position, and as you can see, like actually, if you wouldn't mind pausing it, right there, you kind of also saw like the difference between the like the shield battle, right? Because right here we see the first shield go down for red side. Blue side is their shield's just finishing up. So actually, blue side is going to have the advantage because she's about to place her new shield.
Yeah, he's about to place the second shield.
Right. Whereas if she had gone from horseshoe, you can actually poke that shield a bit and then get a small but important advantage in that shield battle. Whereas here, she has to immediately, you know, like again, that 1 or 2 second walk from L side into that position, drop a shield. She's taking damage. She's taking DM time. And now you're still behind the shield battle. Whereas if you go horseshoe, much more likely you're either even or ahead on that shield battle.
Now, here's a question, because I know Diva is an extremely powerful and popular hero right now. If you're in this battle, you obviously can't shoot and defense matrix at the same time. So if you were red team Diva...
sorry, if I can stop you for 1 second. You can DM and rocket, though, right?
Yes, but rocket's only like 172 DPS and it's being nerfed. Like...
Sure.
So, and then, if you, like, you do 4 times the amount of damage to a shield over the course of a shield's life if you use your cannons. So, we're going to ignore that micro missiles exist here for a second. So, if you were in this situation and you're red team Diva and you're trying to win the shield battle, do you think it's more important to defense matrix Yakpung's shield? Would you defense matrix Yakpung after the shields go down? Or would you be applying fusion cannon damage to Pokepo's shield?
So I love that question because it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. If they had gone horseshoe, much more likely that she doesn't have to expend so much DM. And then therefore, when Orisa does come out and pop that shield, your DM's probably in a much healthier state. If not, you have all of it or most of it. Whereas in this case, as you pointed out, you're kind of in a catch-22. It's like, okay, do I DM the shield? Do I DM once it goes down? Because once it goes down, you probably lost the fight. So yeah, maybe that is better. Another thing to consider is when the opposing Diva does her rockets. That's probably a good time to DM as well. So it really puts the Diva here in a really bad situation where she has to make a really impossible decision. Because in my opinion, there's not really a right answer there. You're kind of already in a bad place.
Yeah, I asked that question specifically because I actually didn't know the answer or what you would have chosen. So, trying to just steal brain knowledge from you, but
so if you were to ask me this, off the top of my head, I would say you DM the moment you hear micro missiles go off, and that's probably it. Like whenever that is, before shield or after shield.
Yeah, instinctually, and I haven't run the numbers or run this through or tested it, but I would defense matrix basically at the start of a new shield being placed down. That's what I would do, especially if there were micros or something like that. And then after that, as soon as their new shield goes down, apply damage. So that's kind of how I do. Is that the right answer, though? I don't know. This would be an interesting thing to actually test out in full what the optimal combination is.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. Wait, you said at the start of the shield? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'd probably defense matrix the start of the shield.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me, especially from Yakpung's perspective, especially because he just put it down, so he has 8 seconds that he has to live.
Yeah, so if you defense matrix at the start of the shield and then start applying a damage, you should have some of it regenerated back up by the time it either breaks or a new shield goes down. So use defense matrix early to give you the advantage so it can start regenerating.
Right. But as I mentioned, if you noticed, just slightly before this clip, Humbaba, he used some of his DM to help get Yakpun into position, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, he's
So
already at like half DM here.
he does it right here, and then I think he just taps it. So like right there. So not a whole lot, but that matters.
That's enough. That's enough. When you only have 2 seconds just tapping it, of course the tap uses, and then there's a delay before it actually starts regenerating. So yeah, that
right.
You say it's minor, but I think most people in chat recognize that was actually could have been the make or break. Like having 1 second less of defense matrix in a shield battle between Orissas could definitely have made the difference. And we were looking at a diva yesterday, a Masters diva, I think it was, who was consistently wasting defense matrix, and it's such a powerful ability. Yeah, very, very powerful ability that you can't afford to waste. So if you are a diva player,
can you pause it actually? Sorry.
Absolutely. Where would you like it paused? Here, farther back?
Yeah, right here is fine.
Okay.
No, but do you want to finish your thought?
No, it's fine. I was done.
Okay. So one thing I want to mention here, and we'll talk about this more in Nepal, and we'll contrast this with Lijiang later. Notice how, actually in this case, neither team, but specifically Ardeont, notice how they don't have a Lucio player. Now, after the rollout, how many fights have happened so far?
This will be third. This will be third fight.
Ooh, are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure this is the second fight. Like we just, sorry. Oh, you're saying this will be the third. This will
be the third fight. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So if you kind of think of the rollout, if we kind of ignore the rollout, because in my opinion, like, the team that I'm looking at the loser's perspective, right? If I lose the rollout, I probably want 3 fights to take it back, right? Like that seems reasonable.
Absolutely.
But notice how we've only had 1 fight since the rollout, and we're about to be 60%. So one thing I want to mention is that it's really dangerous to not run Lucio on Koth. And I'm not saying you have to run Lucio. It's one of those things that teams have to be really, really disciplined. And I know a lot of teams are bad at this at all levels of play. When you're not running Lucio on Koth, I've seen teams, and we've had problems like this internally occasionally, where when we're not having a Lucio, we'll get 2 fights after a rollout if we lost the rollout, which is horrible. Like you need at least 3 fights. And that's actually going to happen here. So this is going to be actually our last fight of this match, which is crazy if you think about it. But
yeah, so we're only going to get 3 fights in total instead of what you're when you're saying rollout. That's not a phrase we've heard before.
Oh, sorry.
What you're referring to is the first fight on a Koth map.
The first fight.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
So you're saying that rollout plus 3 fights should be, how long it like the loser of the rollout should have at least 3 fights to retake.
3 more fights. Exactly. Yeah. That is ideal. And if you have Lucio, sometimes you'll get 4. But again, like if you are not mindful of that and like you let fights drag on, that's kind of what I was saying. You have to be very disciplined because you have to be mindful of the fact that you don't have a lot of fights without a Lucio. So you have to be very careful about not just careful. You have to be very mindful of your ult economy, like so much more than any other map type. Just because if you're not careful, you let 1 fight drag on too long. Guess what? You now have 2 fights as opposed to what could have been 3.
Absolutely. So, it's probably why Koth has become my favorite game mode. The more I've played, simply because it's ult economy condensed and on a time restriction. So it's the most mentally challenging map type to play successfully. Absolutely. Anything else you want to cover or unpause?
I guess we can talk about really quickly about the Winston. Ardeont swapped Winston. I think that's a great call here.
It's a lot harder to retake as an Orisa against an Orisa as compared to dive. So
yeah. And just one thing I want to mention too. I think I would have liked for I don't know these guys. I don't know their hero pools very well, but I would have liked to see Climax and Rain in this situation because you're swapping to the Winston. Swap to like, I don't know, Genji Lucio, something like that, or maybe Sombra Lucio, or just maybe even Soldier Lucio, or Kree, whatever. Just because now that you have the Winston, I feel like your best bet here is to go full dive. And I know these guys can run dive. That's their comfort, or one of their comforts. So this was kind of a bit of a blunder for me, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Poking, looking for that flank, looking for a juicy target. EMP.
No, that was really good reaction from Violet.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Violet EMPs during like the 700 millisecond delay that Sombra has to decloak.
You mean trance, right?
I don't know what I said, but yes.
Yeah, you said EMP. No, I was just clarifying, just making sure. And this is it. This is pretty much the last fight. Actually, kudos to Ardeont. They actually very disciplined. They back up because they know that they want a proper engagement. That being said, they C9 here, so this is actually really sad because they were very good about knowing that they wanted that third fight, but they screw it up.
Oh, it's too bad. Now so EMP was used from Element Mystic here. Let's go back and take a look at this. So EMP was used by Element Mystic, and then Violet trances to kind of keep Ardeont in the fight. So what caused... Normally, if you pop trance against an EMP successfully, that gives you a significant advantage, especially since you have trance itself. Why did Ardeont not win after basically countering the EMP? What caused them to back off instead of, forcing the advantage? So let's look at this again. Guard is going to be forced to translocate out. But the EMP was canceled, or at least countered by Violet. So
right. Actually, can you pause it for just a second?
Yep.
I just want to look at ultimates. So let's see. Element Mystic is coming up on 5 ultimates.
Yep,
Ardeont has 3. So I don't want to, I feel like it's kind of a cop-out answer, but realistically, when you're that far down on ultimates, you're going to have a hard time pulling it back, even if you trance that EMP. And actually, on that note, going back to what I was saying about being disciplined, a really disciplined team here, if they got EMP'd in that moment, they would, I would hope that as a coach, I would coach my team to recognize that, say, hey guys, we have 67% left or 70% left. Let's take it off the map and come back with better ultimates. Now, that being said, in this particular situation, Ardeont kind of screwed up their ultimate economy. So that trance doesn't bother me because realistically, you're low on time. And like we talked about with the Lucio thing, not having Lucio, you don't have a lot of fights left. So they're kind of just in dire straits right now. Like there's not a whole lot they can do aside just, click more heads,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's take a look at this. Chat is telling me that a Winston died before. Okay, Winston died before the trance. I missed that.
Can we go back slightly? How did he die? Did he get sucked? No, he didn't get sucked.
I think he was just outside of the trance. So let Yakpung. What is Yakpung doing?
Where is he? Where are you, Yakpung? Oh, he takes a lot of poke right there. Something. He might have got 5-balled or something.
He is discorded. EMP removes the shield and the defense matrix, and then he gets bursted. Violet pops a trance, but he has to turn the corner, and Yakpung gets bursted through it. So, good reaction from Violet, as well as good positioning. EMP comes out from Stellar. So that takes out the Res and the High Noon, but of course the C9. Oh, and Stellar gets taken out.
And I hate to harp on... Oh, actually? I was just about to say, I feel like the Widow just isn't contributing enough as
Isn't
he gets
that the first pick that they've gotten all map?
I think so, actually. Like, he's obviously done damage, but I legit think that was his first kill.
Yes, I agree. I don't remember seeing a Widow kill before that. And then it's, of course, the C9.
Yeah, and then the C9. They actually had a chance here. Sad. That's it. And actually, an Element Mystic, they were doing the Bongo Valk combo, so a ton of damage.
Yeah, that's a lot. Double damage.
So realistically, I still think even if they don't C9, they
probably still would have lost. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so down 1-0. Which map do we get to see Shrine? Are we going to see Sombra Tracer Dive? I hope we see Sombra Tracer Dive.
We see Sombra and a lot of Kree on both sides.
Sombra Kree. Now, Koreans do seem to love their McCree way more than any of the other regions. Is there any specific reason for this? Is it just such a an emphasis on mechanical skill in that region? Why do we see so much McCree in Korean contenders compared to the other regions?
Yeah, so I think a couple reasons maybe. Sombra Kree is actually pretty strong. As you saw, the EMP High Noon combo is disgusting. Another reason is it kind of diversifies your win conditions a bit. If you're full dive, then you're full dive. You have one win condition. Well, obviously I'm oversimplifying, but you're typically either doing a very successful dive or you're not. However, with the Kree, what you can do is there's certain moments on certain maps where you're kind of in a standoff. You know how sometimes teams will get in a standoff, like dive versus dive.
They're kind of just mirror dives. They just, especially when you're running like mirror 2-4, which I think we're doing here, aren't we? Or no, we're doing like a 3-3s.
A little bit. So So yeah, so that posturing that you spoke of typically happens around corners, and you'll typically see tanks. They'll do that little dance, they'll AD strafe, and maybe do some damage, which is fine in a dive versus dive because you're trying to feeling the opponent out, looking for a pick, maybe some headshots hit on a shuriken or whatever. However, when you throw a McCree in there, suddenly those standoffs are now in your advantage. So if you're ever in that standoff situation, whether it's on defense or offense, and you click a couple heads, you force a leap or you force a shift from D.Va, she gets out of the way. Suddenly you created a lot of space for your team, and now you have more things to play with. Maybe you push cart, maybe you just dive with you push what's on cart, you burn tanks. Maybe you see an opportunity for a dive that wasn't there earlier because the tanks got out of position, then maybe that scared the supports away, or maybe that forced a trance because you think the Winston twice in a row. So it kind of just diversifies your ability to make plays. Whereas when you're running full dive, you better be really, really good at that one thing. So it's just one of those things that diversity is good.
Now, there's just one misunderstanding in chat I'm going to clear up about damage boosts. Damage boosts, all sources of damage boost stack. Damage mitigation is capped, but damage boosts stack additive. So if you have somebody who is nano boosted, that's plus 50%. Valkyrie,
and I think
plus 30%. Right? And then if you have a bongo on top of that, so bongo 50, nano is 50, and then Valkyrie or just mercy damage boost is 30. So a person can get up to 130% extra damage. There's no cap on damage boost. There's a cap on damage reduction, which is 50. It used to be 70%. 50. I think it's now 50. I believe
it's 50.
It used to be 70. I always get this mixed up. It used to be 70. That was nerfed to 50.
Yeah. Bastion died for that.
Bastion. Thank goodness. Because the original, do you remember the Omnic Crisis? I remember the Omnic Crisis. It was.
I feel like it wasn't. It was like a week.
2 weeks,
right? Or like
we
2
got
weeks.
2 weeks. So, Chad, if you don't remember this, it was season 6, 5.
No. It had. Oh, actually, maybe. Yeah, maybe
somewhere in there. Basically, they buffed Bastion just ridiculously, and his Ironclad was his passive was stronger. They didn't have a cap on damage reduction. So it was every team playing Bastion on every map in every situation, and there was nothing you could do about it. Yeah, so that lasted 2 weeks before there was an emergency patch. Omnic Crisis was terrible.
Wait, I really don't recall it being that bad. Was it that bad? I feel like I don't recall it being so horrible.
I don't know. I hated those 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were terrible. March 2017.
I legitimately don't. Well, actually, at that point, I probably wasn't playing too much Overwatch. So actually, that maybe explains it.
Yeah, so that was there were clips of like nano boosted Genjis going against nano boosted Bastions, and the Bastion just like awkwardly looking at the Genji while self healing and just living through it. Just being
That's
like,
awesome.
Nope. Yeah. I stopped playing those 2 weeks. Yeah, chat was just like freaking out. Yeah, chat hated it. So
that's awesome.
We'll ask you more questions at the break. Let's keep going with this.
All right.
But the other thing that I was going to talk about was in the same way that during that posturing phase, McCree gives you an advantage. During that posturing phase, having Moira gives you the same sort of advantage because you can receive more poke without being forced to back off with your leap, your boost, or anything like that, like you talked about. Whereas a McCree, dinking a tank twice, if they're running a Lucio Zen, might force that retreat or the giving up of distance.
True.
Or space. Having Moira allows those tanks to sustain a lot more poke so that they can maintain that pressure while returning that pressure. So if we're seeing like the Moira McCree, we're going to see a much slower dive comp that wants to extend the posturing phase because they have the advantage during the posturing phase. Where although in this case Ardeont has the McCree for that advantage during the posture phase, since they only have Lucio Zenyatta, they don't have that really high healing that can kind of make up for the use of cooldowns that would otherwise save you. So
to be fair though, you do have 5 balls, so there is always the potential for Zen to just outright kill someone or just get someone super low and force a fade or some other cooldown, which then you can capitalize on. So I'm going to disagree with you slightly on the because you were saying Moira as opposed to a Zen, right? I'm assuming that's what you meant.
Yeah, just the presence of Moira allows you to sustain more pressure from the enemy team.
Right, but I think the point I'm arguing is that I think you said that she makes that that standoff posturing phase potentially better, which I would agree in the sense that she has the ability to elongate it if it's not going your way. But on the other hand, you have Zen, who has the ability to make it much shorter, just via his damage.
Well as the Discord allows the targets that are getting poked to be poked a lot harder. Valid point.
Right, exactly. So I feel like, So I don't want to say that Moira actually is better in that standoff phase versus a Zen. I feel like there's trade-offs and pros and cons to both. Whereas the Kree versus having, let's say, a Genji, you are much, much better off in that standoff phase. And obviously there's context because it depends on the map and what part of the map and ultimates and yada, yada, yada. But in general, I think that's true.
I see what you're saying, and I'm going to have to put more thought into that. I'm going to write that down as something to look more into, because I hadn't thought about that. But what you're saying makes sense. Same. So, posturing phase, Moira versus Zen. Because I just had assumed that Moira gave you the advantage, but especially on Shrine.
It's one of those. It's a statistics thing, right? Like, over a certain amount of games, which one's going to do better?
Let's do a
overall.
Poll. Let's do a poll. Let's see what chat thinks. Ooh, and this isn't say who do you agree with, Seksi or myself. This is chat, have your input. So I'm just going to pull up a Twitch poll here. We're going to say, which character do you think, or which supports do you think give the advantage during posturing phase? And
I will say this, and I know maybe some people won't want to hear this, but I think at lower levels of play, actually, I would agree with you. I think Moira is going to offer more because she's, quote unquote, easier to play, which I think is a little bit true. There's some truth to that. Whereas at the higher levels of play, I think Zen actually might have the edge just because actually, now that I say that, while the Zen probably can hit targets more easily, your opponents are going to be smarter and not give you the opportunity to dink them in the first place. So, I need to think about this some more.
Chat looks like so far they're very much agreeing with you. This looks like 84% of people agree that Lucio's. Well, I don't know. Chat's the poll.
It's changing.
It's changing. It's changing.
I can't see, so I'm just taking your word for it.
But that's an interesting one to think about. What is posturing phase? So there's kind of like you regroup, you move from spawn, and then once you've picked your location, whether you go main, left, or right, and then once you've encountered the opponent, since we're not playing 6-0 rush comps or anything like that, especially if you have two teams that are mirrored, like 2-4 dive, so you have a 4-man core, like let's say Lucio Zenyatta, Soldier, Diva, and then you have a 2-man dive crew, a Winston and a Tracer or something like that. If the divers dive, they're going to be diving into not only a 4-man backline, but the two divers will be able to counter dive, turning it into a 6v2 basically. So it's suicide to dive first. So when you have a mirror matchup or a situation where the act of engaging itself puts you at a disadvantage, the two teams will posture or poke at each other looking for an advantage. And the three things that break a stalemate is a positioning error, cooldown usage, or ultimates. Those three things are the things that break a posturing phase. So it's
sounds about right.
You only kind of see this situation in mirror comps, and we see it a lot more in these 2-4 dives. That like posturing phases became a lot more prolonged in the Tracer Widowmaker meta that we're seeing in stage 3. So not a lot of situations actually encounter a very prolonged posturing phase, as we do kind of the meta as well as the maps that we saw so much in stage 3. Looks like 70% agree with you that Lucio Zenyatta gives the advantage during the posturing phase. Interesting.
Yay.
I will have to give that more thought.
Yeah, as do I. I need to think about this more because honestly, like most things in Overwatch, or rather all things in Overwatch, it's all contextual. We just look for generalities, and high-level concepts to, apply our thoughts and our theories so that we have, something to base our thoughts on. Otherwise, we would just be, chickens running around with their heads cut off.
And I'm not sure if you knew, but this is, again, the reason why I started streaming in the first place was to get better at analysis, a better understanding the game, and become a better coach overall. So I certainly don't mind it when you disagree with me or point something out that you think I'm saying is incorrect, because I'm learning, and that's at the end of the day, that was the goal. So
Right.
I'm definitely going to
I'm in
spend
the
more
same
time
boat.
thinking about that.
I'm always trying to learn as well. It's something you need to be able to do as a coach or analyst.
So, getting back to it, when we roll out here, this is something that a lot of Sombra players kind of question about whether they do. Should guard go for a health pack hack first, or should they threaten tanks with a hack? Because if you hack a Winston or a Diva in a dive composition, that tank themselves becomes a valid dive target. They can't escape, they can't use their abilities to protect themselves or escape. You can burst tanks if you land a hack on them. You can pretty much dive anything if you hack it. So, in terms of like the first hack that guard goes for, should it be onto a mega? Should it be threatening opposing tanks? What should guard's initial actions be on this Sombra?
Yeah, I love this question. This is probably like my favorite question right now. Okay. There's in my eyes right now, if I'm going in blind, if I'm Element Mystic and I'm guard, there's 3 ways I can think about how to play Sombra on the rollout, right? On the first fight.
Yeah, on the rollout.
Yeah. So the first is go for a health pack, right? And then obviously then your team plays around that health pack. And since you're running dive, that's totally doable because you have tanks that can, and mobile characters that can go back to that pack and heal up, get back into the fight. Awesome. The other thing you can do is go for an aggressive hack on, like you said, the tanks on the back line, and go for a pick. And one tangent thing I want to mention is that you said you can go for a tank and burn that target. That's actually really good for Element Mystic in this case because as you can see, on red side, on Ardeont, they don't have a Moira, and Moira can keep a tank alive who's hacked like nobody's business. She is so good at keeping tanks alive. So this is actually great for blue side that the fact that red side does not have a Moira. In fact, I would actually say that there's a case to be made for when you do hack a tank and the enemy team does have a Moira, that you can still go for the Moira. In my opinion, Moira is probably the best. Actually, it's kind of a toss-up between Diva, Lucio, and Moira. Those 3 targets are amazing to hack. And if you can get any of those, there's a good chance you can kill them.
Absolutely. Hacking a Moira or a Lucio, oh my god, such high value. Incredibly high value landing a hack on one of those targets.
Yeah. And you don't always have to go for the hack target. Like when you hack it, you don't always have to like kill it. Like if you do get a Moira who's kind of maybe a little bit away from the fight, you can actually then maybe collapse on a Diva. But 9 times out of 10, you pretty much want to kill the hack target because they're they are what they are. They're hacked. Okay, cool. The last thing, the third thing you can do as Sombra is you can go for like a more defensive, some people call it passive style of Sombra, where this may sound kind of weird. You actually kind of, on the rollout, you kind of play the back line, like your back line. You kind of act as a bodyguard. Maybe you stealth. Maybe you kind of just, wait in a corner a little bit. And you look for a Tracer, a Sombra, or like a tank that, shifts in very aggressively, and you get a hack. And it can be extremely effective. It might sound kind of counterintuitive, like, oh, Sombra in the backline? Like, that's kind of weird. But especially on a rollout, it can really catch a team off guard. And then guess what? You're running dive, you have Kree, you collapse on that target, and 100% that target is dead. Almost no chance. So those are the 3 options, and it's all completely contextual. At this point, it's like, it's mind games. Like, you kind of have to assume, you have to make some guesses of what your opponents are going to do, and then you can formulate a plan. Like, okay, we're going to either hack the health pack, we're going to go for an aggressive hack as a flank, or we're going to play the defensive counter hack. So,
last question before we roll out here. Are they going to take Elephant because of the Mega there, or where do you think that? Where's Elephant? Just take a guess, and like, look, where are they going to go? Main Elephant hack the Mega? Are they going to go, red hack the Mega on those little rooms in there? Where is the Sombra? The red and green are on Shrine side.
On Shrine side. Okay, red and green. Okay, like upper and lower?
So there's the 2 Megas that are mirrored.
Oh, okay, and one of them red, one of them green.
Yeah, it's the carpet colors. One is red, one is green carpet.
Okay. Yeah. Are you asking me what I think EM's going to do? Because I think I already know the answer.
Well, if you know the answer, tell us what the answer is and why.
So if I recall correctly, I think they go for the Elephant Mega, just because as like a default, like it's just pretty good in general. Like when you're not quite sure, it's like it's like of all the options, it's the safest, right? Because you're always going to get value out of that, and you don't have to be too concerned about like the strategy of what your opponent's doing. So in my opinion, it's the safest.
Cool. Yeah. Any last thoughts?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, let me know if you want to pause.
With the Widow, they tried to pull
All
Shiz.
right.
Killing him isn't
Here we
the
go.
end, but
So
killing the Chain Fly
as you'll
is
see,
difficult
Ardeont swaps
do
to
in its
the
setup, so
to the
it's
Mercy,
like
so they just
that
went for the
was
speed
better
boost
way,
and
but they
then
didn't have a
went for
Sombra.
Mercy.
The full
Let's see if I was
ended
right
up being
about that
effective.
hack.
Now they're going to try to out McCree. Element Mystic again without the
They
Sombra.
Pause
did
it?
get the
Yes.
they did
Yep.
get the
Yeah.
mega hack first.
Right. Now, crucial thing to notice here is that Element Mystic kept the Lucio, so they get to spawn first. Or sorry,
Absolutely.
to point first.
And they need that specifically because they are running the Sombra. And if they run Sombra but no Lucio, and the opponent runs Sombra Lucio, then their Sombra basically loses because they lose
Right.
control of that mega.
Right, exactly. So in this case, you're going to see, I believe, Yakpung, for the Winston from Ardeont, he's going to make a huge mistake here. This was really weird to me when I saw this. I played it like twice or 3 times, and I was like, why is he doing this? I don't understand. So actually, yeah, you can just go ahead and play it, and maybe
Okay, let me know when to pause.
For more burst damage with the pulse
So-
bombs.
I'll see if I can
Kobe
notice
were
the
the
Fine,
mistake.
try to play to your strengths, but
I
you're
think
only
you will
benching
definitely
20
notice the
pounds, then
mistake.
Probably going to fall short in the matchup. Element Mystic now.
What is
poking
that?
away, Yakpung's
So,
gonna go down,
yeah,
and
can you pause it?
Executor goes-
Absolutely.
Okay, so the only thing I can think of is he was expecting some DM time, but even still, that is a really weird play to make.
Yeah. Go ahead and explain
like-
why. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot of why. It's just that he's poking into. Okay, so he went onto point when
Give
his
me a
backline
second.
does
I'm
not
going to pull out my pen and I will draw what you are talking about.
Sure. So he looks into point where his opponents were already there before him, which means they all have line of sight of him, but his backline has no line of sight of his opponents. So I hope, exactly this. So I honestly don't know what was going through his mind when he did that. Maybe he thought that his team was gonna, roll forward with him, but even still, that's not the play because the sight lines are horrible. You're just gonna end up bunching up in a tiny little ball, and dives like that typically. So yeah, big question mark. I don't know what that play was, and this is really sad to say, but now, and this is especially true with like Kree versus Kree. Kree is really damn good at holding a point, whereas retakes is a little bit harder, especially on Shrine with the Kree. So
it's the same way with a lot of matchups, like the Pharmacy matchup, the Widowmaker matchup. Retaking is always more difficult than actually defending.
Yeah. But and it's more true on certain maps, where you actually hold on point. So Shrine is a classic map where, as defenders, you actually can hold on point. Whereas you have maps like what's a good example? Lighthouse, Ilios, where a lot of teams do not hold on point; they hold off point. And those are maps where you can you do that play where you send a Sombra or a Tracer to contest point. Someone drops down to recontest, to like contest the Tracer, and then you have like a 5v5 situation somewhere else, and you go for a dive there.
Mhm.
So in a case like this, where you typically hold on point as the defenders, the Kree is super strong. And versus the Kree, you just have the advantage there. So I would have liked to see Ardeont probably swap, similar to what I said last time. So just swap to the dive, just swap to Tracer Genji or Tracer Sombra, or something like that.
And just a little bit more information on the posturing phase. Now, when we've talked about this posturing phase where neither team has an advantage, we're still feeling each other out, especially on the the rollout or the initial fight, where the first fight on Koth is by far the most impactful fight of the entire map, right? Because it sets up who has to manage their ult economy to retake, and has control of actually staggering out team fights and min-maxing the percentages on the point. So once we've realized that there is going to be a posturing phase, and if we're running sort of the slower dive comp, the chances are pretty high that we're going to end up in a posturing phase. We end up there's a little bit of a ledge here because these are stairs over here, right? Stairs. And Element Mystic, they take position. It's Element Mystic that is running the...
Yes.
So they're moving on to the point in here. So they're going to be using basically this cover here, and this gives them control over the point. Whereas Ardeont went on the outside with here, and they're running their Mercy, Zen, and McCree, and they have these sort of firing lines. Now, they can't, because they're on the low ground, they can't actually hit this group here, because they're kind of, these guys are on the low ground, and these guys are on the high ground here. But the big thing here that I really liked about Element's positioning is that with Lucio, they were actually able to take position on the point here. So we talked about when we are in this posturing phase, there's the kind of the three things that can break a posturing phase. You know, there's a mispositioning, which in this case was what Yakpung happened. He mispositioned himself and got punished. That breaks the stalemate or the posturing phase. But assuming that this mistake did not actually occur, the only other things that are going to break this stalemate are going to be somebody farming an ultimate or somebody using a cooldown, and somebody like a Winston using a jump to retreat, for example. If he gets bursted down too much, this can really break the posturing phase and gives the other team an opportunity to engage. But the fact that Element Mystic using Lucio took position of the point here, because we're at this stalemate, Ardeont, in order to actually contest the point, once the point unlocks, would have had to do so at a disadvantage. So Lucio not only allows them to hack this health pack, but take positional advantage. So now that they actually have control of the point, they have no incentive to break this posturing phase. So they don't actually want to engage, because it is on Ardeont to engage onto Element Mystic. But in order to do this, they have to burn a cooldown. Burning a cooldown or putting themselves out of position puts them at a disadvantage, and Element Mystic can punish them.
Yeah, and just as another thing I want to mention is that with this rollout, since they were not running the Lucio from Ardeont's perspective, they should have gone on the other side of the map, right? Like Shrine side, here they could have got the high ground. McCree up there is deadly. Like, you know, Soldier up there is deadly. McCree up there is deadly, and that would have been 10 times better than them going Elephant side. And you know, and as going back to your drawing, that health pack behind them is hacked. So, like, that makes matters just as, it makes it, I don't know, twice as bad. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. That's enough of that sketch. Let's get back into it. We'll replay Yakpung's mistake, which will lead to Element Mystic taking the first fight, which is a rollout and should set them up for the map victory.
Right. And one thing I want to mention too is that, like we talked about in the previous Nepal, it was a Sanctum. How we talked about that concept of not having Lucio, you get less fights. Guess what's going to happen in this map? Same thing.
We're only going to get 2 fights after the rollout.
We're going to get 2 fights. Big surprise there. In this case, actually, yeah, we'll talk about it some more. So that'll be interesting. So they lose this, and
I don't think there's much to talk about in the rest of the fight. You know, there's a lot of kills happening, but the first one, Yakpung getting picked, is the one that actually mattered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. EMP is at 50%. Holy hell, is that bad for Ardeont? Coalescence, one of the fastest building ultimates in the game, is at 83. Guess what? Ardeont's not going to win this. Like this is Element Mystic's game to lose at this point. They have such a huge advantage. It's unbelievable. I can't understate how much of an advantage Element Mystic has, both positionally and just in terms of ultimates.
Now,
like,
this time
it would be.
You go ahead. It would just be crazy for Element Mystic to lose this, and I would agree with you. Now, this time, Ardeont originally rolled out Coast, but this time they're rolling out Green. So, you know, they're coming Shrine side instead of going Coast. Now, why on the retake has Ardeont decided to go Shrine side instead of Coast?
I'm guessing that Ardeont obviously they must have had a reason to go Coast, right? They must have anticipated Element Mystic. Maybe they watched an older VOD and thought, okay, this is the best way to go. But then I think they very intelligently realized, oh, like, you know, we need to go Shrine side. It's typically better. But again, I don't like that they didn't clear the high ground and that they didn't make space for Kree on the high ground. That to me is still a bit of a blunder.
Do you think the McCree's fall off range, being only 20 meters, makes him impactful enough to even take the high ground?
Yeah, I do. One thing that people don't realize is that, first off, I think it's 22 meters,
22
as
meters,
you mentioned
yes.
earlier. Yeah, I think that's actually bigger than people think. But the more important thing is that actually the fall off isn't that bad in the first couple of meters. Like when you're getting to about 30 meters, he still does like maybe 60 damage or 50 something damage, which is nothing to scoff at. So I think people oversell the fall off on McCree a little bit too much.
Oh, I wonder what the range is before he can't 3-shot people. That'd be an even more important number, wouldn't it? Because it doesn't really matter if you're doing fall off as long as you can land the 3 shots to kill.
You know what? Let me find out, McCree.
We can do the math on it.
Let's do some fancy math.
Oh, by the way, the answer to how many times you can fit South Korea into Australia was apparently 77. I forgot to mention that.
77 times.
Mickey McCree.
Let's
So
see.
McCree's fall off is 22 to 45.
Oh no, it is 20. I thought it was 22. Oh no, it is 20.
It's 22
Wait.
to 45
Oh,
meters.
22 for Fan the Hammer. Oh, actually, wait, actually, no. What you're seeing is different than what I'm seeing.
Fall off
I'm on
range
the wrong
18
side.
to 30 meters for Fan the Hammer, but for Peacekeeper it's 20 to 45.
Right.
Okay, so if we didn't do...
So I'm curious what it is at 30, because 30 is very generous.
So there's a fall off range. The tire fall off is 23 meters fall off. 23 meters fall off. And then it's going to be 49 damage. So it's going to be damage per meter fall off is 2.13. So if we're doing 2.13 reduced damage per meter, that means at
50,
30
about 50.
times 8, 70
about 53,
minus
huh?
17 is 53. So 4 shots to kill. So you can 4-shot to kill at 30 meters, but you can't 3-shot to kill.
I mean, but realistically, like at this level, one of those shots is probably going to be a headshot. And I know that's that's maybe a bit presumptuous, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's, and you also have to account for things like discords and blue beam, which I think that's why they went mercy was for
Yeah,
the
blue beam and McCree will make this entirely different. Like at 30 meter with blue beam, we're doing 68.9, and with Discord, we're doing 90.
Yeah. So, and again, and actually, I feel like 30 meters is being a bit generous. I don't even think a lot of your targets from uppers into shrine, or sorry, into point, it's probably not, like maybe at the edge of the other end of shrine, or sorry, I keep saying shrine, of point, is probably still less than 30 meters.
Probably. Interesting.
So,
good to check out. And how many people actually do fall off calculations? Yeah, right. That's
not too many.
Not too many. No. Okay.
But it's important to think about.
Hey,
okay,
man.
so here again, this is. Oh, sorry,
go ahead. I was just saying hi to Majesty. He showed up in chat, so I wanted to say hi.
Yeah. So, and again, like we talked about earlier, at this point, EM has the positional advantage. They have the ultimate advantage. Kudos to Climax for having a pretty good McCree ultimate charge, but again, that's probably because he's just burning tanks in front of him. Whereas XZI or XZ, however you say his name, his sightlines aren't so great, but that's only because Ardeont isn't taking any space. Like they're struggling to just
without
get out
clearing
of
that high ground, the Diva and the Winston can just cleave them for so much damage as they're trying to push up from red, right?
Exactly. So in my mind, Climax being at 74%, while kudos to him, that's pretty good. Not a whole lot of value there. Whereas XZ's value is much better. He's disallowing the tanks from getting out of that lower space. And if we kind of think of it in terms of Valk versus Coalescence, you're always going to get Coalescence first. And just any tip for your viewers out there, especially on Koth, when you get Coalescence as Moira, you're probably the first person to get it on the map, and you should just burn it right away. Do not wait for anything. Just throw out an orb and just burn that baby. And actually, we're gonna see that here. Yeah,
I know that somebody's gonna do that in a ranked game. It's not gonna work, and they're gonna come flame you on Twitter or something. Careful.
Oh, no.
I learned very early on never to say just. You should always do this. There are always exceptions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me take a step back. Let me qualify my statement. The
I was
vast
gonna say, I
time-
learned this lesson a while ago. You always want to give the exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. Yes. No, you're absolutely right. The vast majority of the time, when on Koth as Moira, assuming that it's not 2v6 because you guys lost the fight already, assuming the fight is still winnable, you should always burn that coal. Fuck. You should.
Usually,
oh my God.
Usually.
You should usually burn Coalescence. All right, I'm done. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Okay.
Oh man, I'm gonna get roasted. All right. Stellar, unfortunately here. Oh, can you pause it? I totally forgot to mention something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Sorry,
go back a little bit.
Can you go back a little bit?
Let me just
actually,
shout it, scream in my ear.
No, can you pause? Can you pause? And actually, can you go back a little bit more? Oh, actually, you know what? Just leave it. It's fine. Are any of your viewers would they like to take a shot to kind of talk about a win condition that Ardeont has right now? It's kind of
this is
in the
interesting.
middle
This is a
of
great
this-
question. Chat,
Yeah.
Ardeont has no ultimates. What is their win condition? You know what? That is a great question that I should ask more often. Great question.
Do you know what it is, Jayne?
Let me, not off the top of my head. Let me.
Can I give you a clue?
No.
Okay.
Let me try and figure this one out for myself at the same time Chad is. Ardeont's win condition.
They have a very
Dako's out of mech. Dako's out of mech.
Yes, exactly. So Dako's out of mech, and actually I forgot to mention this because we were tangenting on stuff. My bad. They actually Ardeont was really indecisive earlier. If you want to play the last 20 seconds, Dako. Oh, actually, okay. I need to take another step back. There's actually a lot to talk about here.
Okay, just let me know when you want to pause.
Actually, yeah. Can you just actually go back a little bit more, maybe like another 10 seconds?
You're good.
This is fine. Okay. So another tip for all your viewers out there: if you're ever losing a fight and it's like 3v6 and you're clearly gonna lose, if there's a diva in your face, all of you should turn around and burst that diva, because if you demech her on the next fight, you have a very, very easy win condition, which is to kill diva. Or if she can, or you force her to fall off a ledge, and in that case, maybe she's the last person to die, and then on the next fight, you have a small advantage in the fact that diva will be out of position at the start of that fight. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So actually Ardeont does this, whether or not they were smart enough to call that at the end of a very chaotic fight.
Let's go back and see if they did it, because the Dako was indeed the last one broken before they died in full reset. So let's see if this was done on purpose. Where is Dako?
Yeah, let's just look at those. Yeah, let's look at those health bars from Element Mystic. So everybody look at the top left. Ooh. Yeah, that looks deliberate, actually. Yeah. So, and actually, if you can pause it again, I want to say it's a little bit arrogant or maybe disrespectful that Dako actually didn't fall off the ledge right here. He should have jumped off coast and reset. So this was a huge misplay, in my opinion, from Element Mystic, because if Ardeont had played this correctly, they would not have allowed Dako to get so much ult charge, which you'll see in a moment, and they could have just dove her and killed her.
Cool. Let's keep playing.
All right. So, and then again, going back to the Lucio thing, like, it makes it really tough for them to get back quickly, which is sad. But they needed to realize, okay, Dako's out of mech. Let's kill Baby Diva ASAP. And it's hard to do this without Lucio, but they probably should have just run it down mid and just got on with it, because they're taking way too long. And right there, you can see a bit of spike from Dako. Mm-hmm. Actually, you can pause it for a second.
Yeah, he went up from 60 to 85%, so he chipped somebody down.
Exactly. So this is actually a little bit disrespectful of Ardeont, or maybe I'm just overanalyzing, and maybe they don't even realize this. But I'd like to hope that they do know this. When they're doing those transitions from main to, I don't know what your callouts are, but basically any transition, they should be DMing during those transitions. So like any moment that the opponents have loss of them, they should be DMing. So it's, in my opinion, another huge blunder from Ardeont to not DM those left clicks from Dako, because now they're losing that window. And like I said, without the Lucio, this window is very small, but it's big enough for them to capitalize on. But unfortunately, they messed it up. So yeah, you can play it now.
Okay.
So 88. Oh, they're running out of time. You got to go now. And the Tracer could have scouted that. Like if this were me, if this were my team, I would have told, okay, Tracer, it's your job to find out where that baby is, and then we do a blind dive into that location that you call. Because Tracer can say, oh, Baby Diva's on point, or Baby Diva's by shrine, or whatever, and then you jump on that point blind, right? So a huge throw from Ardeont here. Yeah. And like I said, next fight's gonna be the last fight. We're already at 45%. Yeah. It's a bit sad. 2 fights after the rollout. It's no good.
Now, Ardeont's actually finally coming up on ultimates. They did use their Valkyrie, or they swapped?
They did. They did
use their Valkyrie.
Yeah. Yep. So that feels bad.
So they're coming up on 5 ults. Could have been 6 if they hadn't used Valkyrie. But
look at this! Oh, boom! In the trans, which I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The Zenyatta always has to have that kind of combination of, if he doesn't trance, he's going to die there, and if he does trance, he's going to die later.
But he was actually out of line of sight of her, so I feel like the sound, he just instantly did it and assumed that she would be in line of sight.
Out of line of sight. Let's.
Yep. Right here. Watch this.
Oh yeah, he was out of sight, and then Violet pops the trance because of the sound. Interesting.
But again, like, this is something
this is the second time that Violet has kind of very instinctively pop Transcendence after the Sombra, because we saw that same thing happen on Sanctum. So if I
Right.
knew that Violet was a trigger happy Zenyatta with his Transcendence, I'd be trying to bait that shit out with my Translocator all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
So whether or not that's a good trance is up for debate. In my opinion, trance is the hardest ultimate in the game to know when to use it, because in previous metas it was a little bit more obvious, like because you basically always had beat and trance, right? Like 95% of the time that was your composition.
absolutely.
And then you just had to figure out, okay, do they have visor if they're running soldier? Do they have blade? And trance was really easy to use back then. Right now, trance, in my opinion, is the hardest ultimate in the game to know when to use it, because you use it too early, you lose. Use it too late, you lose. You didn't use it when you should have, you lose. You should have.
You used it when you shouldn't have, you lose.
Yeah, like, so it's really sad because it's one of those ultimates that has immense impact if used correctly, but your window to know how to use them is like the span of a second. So my heart goes out to all the professional Zenyatta players and all the amateurs too. It's a legitimately a very hard ultimate to use when you have to deal with blades and visors and EMPs and all this other crap. So yeah.
Any other, like, this is lost, right? We don't even really have to analyze the rest of it. They've lost
not
this
much.
fight 100%
Yeah.
because the EMP
This
is
is
just going to
kinda
come out
done.
uncontested. EM has, they don't have their support ults, but their tanks have ultimates if they, for some reason get bursted. Like this time, if they burst Dako, he's just going to use bomb to remech and just be like, whatever. So,
Yep.
and then if that happens next fight, they're going to have support ultimates. So this game, as far as I'm seeing it, is pretty, like this fight 100% is done, because EMP is about to come out and just dumpster Ardeont. But if you see anything worth mentioning, do point it out. Nice little stick.
Yeah, like you said, trigger happy trans. Violet. He faked the EMP, and then now he uses it after the trance comes offline, and that's a GG. And then this stagger is huge right here. This is such an important moment. They boop her back, they block her. This turns what could have been 3 fights into 2 automatically. And
that
like we
was
talked
a
about, the
huge
Lucio.
stagger. There's no way that D.Va is coming back to touch.
Exactly. So it makes this next fight practically worthless, right? It's a desperation. It's going to be super staggered. There's almost nothing you can do here. So even though they do touch point, it's not even worth mentioning as a fight. So again, like I was talking about earlier, no Lucio puts you in danger of not having 3 fights, which I can't say how important that is. I know I keep repeating that, but it is so important. And and as a team, you have to be so disciplined with your ultimates and knowing how to manage your economy. One of the things I like to do, or what I like to see from teams, and I think we see this on Lijiang, I forget from what side, but they get EMP'd, and then one of the teams immediately takes it off the map. They know that they need to reset, and that's the kind of discipline you need playing into a Sombra.
Now, there's a few things here. First, do you think that having like Moira Sombra become more meta on these Koth maps, slowing down the engagements instead of like these really fast full dive compositions, like
So in my opinion,
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
You knew what I was gonna ask. You can answer.
Well, okay. Actually, I kind of want to tangent for a second, and I want to say that if Sombra had been more meta before, like if she had been one of those characters that people played more consistently, and if Blizzard had balanced her differently from the beginning, I think that right now we would be in a super what's the word? We would be very deep in a composition that would in a meta that was comprised of Winston D.Va, Tracer Sombra, Moira Lucio. I legitimately think that's an extremely strong composition on multiple maps that if things had worked out differently, that would be like a standard. That would be like the standard right now. And I kind of want to explain why. So first off, there's no backline to that composition, right? In terms of diving that composition, it's actually really hard to dive that composition because Lucio and Moira are incredibly slippery. And not just that, you have lots of game-winning ultimates. Or not game-winning, but like game-impacting, right? Coalescence, it's kind of like Pulse Bomb that you can just get it like every fight or like almost every fight. EMP can just win a fight. Pulse Bomb is obviously incredibly strong. Winston D.Va, obviously, they're just good tanks and they're hyper flexible and mobile. And then Lucio for speed boost and beat. So I feel like it's a very flexible composition that can do a lot of work. And I think if things had gone differently, like that could be very meta right now. And I feel like people haven't realized how strong that composition is yet. But it's starting to come up in Korea and China Pacific.
Do you think it will become more common after we see more pros put more time into Sombra? Because like Sombra was not a character that was very common to see in the hero pool of pro players.
Yeah, and in Overwatch and also in other games, metas typically get defined by the Koreans, right? Like it's just kind of a thing that happens. In my opinion, I don't think OWL teams are playing Sombra enough. I feel like she's incredibly powerful, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. But in the future, I would not be surprised if Overwatch League teams start playing her more. That being said, we're heading into a new meta with the Reaper and the Hanzo and the Mei and all this stuff. So who knows?
Cool. Well, we're between maps now, so we're going to be transitioning from the Nepal game in which Element Mystic won, and at this point in time, Element Mystic, the favorites to win up 1-0. Now, the next map that we're going to skip to, we're not going to do the entire series because, unfortunately, what time is it there? It's got to be like 11 p.m.
11:30, yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm getting a little bit tired.
So we're gonna skip right to the last map. Now, the last map is important because Ardeont brought it back, and they were the underdogs here, but they managed to reverse sweep Element Mystics. We're gonna jump right to the last map, but before we jump into the last map, we'll probably take questions for 4 or 5 minutes. So if you guys have any questions for Seksi, if you want any clarification on anything he said, now is the time. So post your questions in chat while I'm pulling up the next map.
Step away for 1 second. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'll grab water as well
wanted-
while the questions are kind of piling up, and then let me know when you're back.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
I'll be right back, chat.
Yo, hello.
Sorry, are you back?
Yes.
Okay, let's find some questions for you. First question coming in from Quad J saying, "Why no Junkrat on Sanctum?" And let's try and keep these questions, because there's going to be a lot. Try and keep these questions 30 seconds or less.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Wait, is he asking why they didn't run it on
Sanctum? Nepal Sanctum.
Yeah.
Why are we not seeing Junkrat?
Good. Yeah, that's a good question. Junkrat is really strong on Sanctum, so I don't have the answer for that. I don't mind the. Actually, what did Ardeont run? Widow Tracer? Yeah, if I was Ardeont, I would have run Widow Junkrat. If I was Element Mystic and I was going Kree Sombra, that actually doesn't bother me. I think that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of the Tracer nerfs?
Good. I think it's great. I think it's healthy for the game. I think Tracer, she's too strong, and I agree with the reasoning that Blizzard gave, that she's not meant to be a tank buster, although she obviously can deal with tanks very well. I don't think that should necessarily be her role in the game, and sticking tanks is pretty easy.
Yes,
so I feel like this is one. Yeah, so I feel like this is one of those changes that I 100% agree with Blizzard.
Who do you think is the MVP in the Overwatch League so far?
MVP. So full disclosure, I feel like I haven't watched enough OWL. That being said, let's see. Jayne is obviously a contender for that. Maybe Saviolbi. Linkster's pretty damn good on Widow, that's for sure. But there's lots of good Widow players, man. You know what? I'm just gonna cop out and just say Jonak.
Nice, solid pick. Spence WH1 says, "Why has Sombra become less of a support? I know she does more damage, but she still does the same healing as she did before."
So one of the reasons is because they removed the ultimate charge from healing packs. And then, as you pointed out, the damage changes. If I'm not mistaken, though, ever since the original Sombra, I think they've tweaked Translocator a bit, right? Am I wrong? Am I right there, Jayne?
Yeah, they changed it. They use the cooldown, right?
Like
now
the
it's
cooldown.
20
Yeah,
seconds.
exactly, the cooldown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's much more mobile as a flanker,
and can
if
go
I'm not
deeper,
mistaken.
right? For longer periods.
Exactly,
of
she
time.
can go deeper. And I don't want to undersell the damage because the damage is actually huge. Like I can't state that enough. Yeah, so she doesn't have the ultimate charge from health pack. I think that's a huge one because she can't, like, before when she was support, she could take a support slot because specifically not you were getting a 2-for-1 deal. You were getting lots of heals from the health packs and you were also charging EMP super fast. So that was kind of a trade-off teams would make where they said, okay, we don't have, another support ultimate, but we're getting EMP almost every fight. So now, because she doesn't get that anymore, you don't really want to rely on those health packs too much because then that takes away from your other supports ultimate charge. Yeah, so I think that's basically it.
Okay. For a solo queue player, which would be the best hero to learn and master? Genji, Tracer, or Sombra?
Definitely not Sombra. 100% not Sombra. It requires way too much team coordination. That being said, it's better now than it was before because before it required more in the sense that you needed your front line, like your D.Va and Winston, assuming you had one, to go and get those health packs. But even still, I don't think Sombra's a good pick for solo queue.
Who is?
I would say Tracer.
Who is the best Sombra other than Guard?
Oh, I am not qualified to answer that question.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can this McCree Sombra work with a more static composition like Ryan Zarya instead of Winston D.Va?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Can a McCree Sombra duo work with a more static composition like Ryan Zarya instead of Winston D.Va?
On certain maps, yes. I think it could work on, say, King's Row pretty well.
How do you think about, or what do you think about Junkrat's nerf? His tire was reduced 7% in speed, and his projectiles were reduced in size by 33%.
Yeah, I think they're good nerfs. The tire thing is interesting. I kind of would have liked to see something. I think I saw this on Reddit one time. Someone mentioned that the ultimate charge could, the ultimate damage from the tire could decrease with the amount of damage you put on the tire. I thought that was interesting. I'm not sure if that's the right move, but I thought that could be cool. Making the tire a bit slower, I think, is a step in the right direction, though. I think they're good nerfs.
Tiger OW asks, as a Lucio player, if you have, say, a friendly D.Va hacked, as a form of saving her, would be a viable strategy be to speed boost her out in order to disengage?
Oh man, that's completely contextual. If you're in the comms with her and she knows that you're doing that, and in the situation she has enough health to get out, then yes, I think that's fine.
Okay. Do you think that Pharah is underutilized?
Pharah being underutilized. You mean like at the highest levels of play, or
yes,
like
I would assume. I would assume.
I would say no. Pharah can be very, very volatile when your opponents can run. Well, actually, there's certain maps that she's really strong on, and maybe on those maps, yeah, I would say maybe she is a bit underutilized on certain maps because on certain maps she just absolutely does not work at the highest levels of play.
Okay. What needs to be done in order for Anna to be viable?
She is viable. She is viable on certain maps. Hanamura. What else? What else is she viable on? Maybe Anubis. Yeah. I can't. Sorry, I'm getting really tired right now. But in my opinion, she's actually not that bad. I think she's one of those characters that requires other things to be changed for her to kind of come back to the meta, quote unquote, the meta. So I think she's actually in a good place right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if she becomes really powerful with certain things changing around her.
Have you taken a look at the new map, Rialto?
I have not actually.
Okay.
No.
I'm just going to thank some subscribers and donators, and then we are going to move into the next map. Okay, so Connells with the tier 1 sub. Thank you so much, my friend. I am the law. It's not I am the law. It's I am the law with the prime sub. Thank you so much, my friend. 100 bits coming in from Yolvnir. Love your stream. Went from a dirty plat Mercy main to a full flex in Masters. Keep it up. You're awesome. Thanks, bud. Seksy's pretty awesome too. I love having it's such a awesome treat having guests on to share their knowledge with chat as well. Bill Nython with the 100 bits says, "Morning, friend. So I have a Faravod coming your way. Be gentle on my main tank ass." We'll have to see how you do. It's always fun. Main tank. Is it the same way in the Pacific region where there's a drought of good main tank players?
Oh,
Because in North
yeah, I
America,
guess
at least,
so.
there are not many very good main tank players. Are so DPS mains, dime a dozen. Good main tank, poof, hard to find.
One thing that I'd like to tell all the DPS, or sorry, all of the main tank players out there and contenders, or anyone who wants to be a tank player, and this may sound stupid, but I'm gonna say it because I know of people who don't do this. If you're a tank player, play tanks in ranked. I know that sounds like a duh, obviously, but no, legitimately, make sure you're playing lots and lots of tank play. I know of some players who they're tanks, and when they rank, they like to play DPS, and that is not good. Am I crazy? Is that, yeah? I don't know.
It's funny because I've heard conflicting reports that a lot of people have been bitching, especially recently, that ranked teaches bad habits, and that's the reason why they don't play their mains in ranked. Maybe it's just
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that argument, but you're gonna get so many situations in ranked that you just cannot get in scrims, just because ranked is such a vast ocean of random crap that happens. But guess what? That random crap, like those situations might happen on match day sometime, which you might not get in scrims, like a situation as a Winston that you maybe won't encounter too often. And when you get in that situation in ranked, you're going to remember that on match day or in a scrim. And that stuff is very important. And unfortunately for tank players, you're going to get less of that relative to your DPS counterparts, like those peers, because they're going to get those situations, like the situations that they get are going to happen very frequently. Whereas for tanks, you don't get a whole lot of those situations. A good example is when Miro, I don't know if you remember this, it was like on Ilios Well. This was Apex Season 1 or something. He does that play where he goes into the Pharah off coast and like primals and kills her and comes back. You remember that?
That was amazing. I remember that clip.
Yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that I guarantee you, if you're a main tank player for a contenders team and you're playing a lot of DPS, you might not be able to pull off those mechanics. Like you just might not, because you haven't done enough of Winston. And I know it sucks because you don't get a whole lot of time doing those kinds of plays. Whereas as DPS, it feels like you're constantly doing these flashy plays. Whereas as a tank, the majority of your time, guess what? You're posturing. You're at a stupid corner for 30 seconds, and you're like, yeah, this is boring. But you really need those 10% of moments where you do get to do your flashy plays.
Absolutely. No argument from me at all, but tank. A whole bunch of people in chat perked up. They're like, main tank drought? What? I play main tank. Any resources that you would recommend in order for people to learn tank? Just any off the top of your head? Are there any videos on your YouTube channel about main tanks?
Yeah, I have a few. Like I think I have one or two. One about Winston and kind of making sure you're playing corners correctly and like line of sight, engagement. Outside of that, off the top of my head, I don't recall. Yeah. Businessman. It might be that first one, actually.
There we go.
There you go.
So, if you guys don't know, Seksi.
Hello and welcome.
Oh God, Seksi has a YouTube channel with a lot of VOD reviews on it, as well as some really, really good videos. Videos on rotations, risk management, engagements, creating pressure.
Oh my God! Some of these are so old; they're probably so bad. Please don't watch the old ones.
Please don't. Yeah, I'm the same way. There's a reason I didn't upload like the first 2 months of my stream onto YouTube, because I'm honestly kind of embarrassed by the quality back then. But if you were to pick one video that you are proud of on your, if you wanted to have the one introduction to your channel, if you were to recommend one video, what is something that people should watch?
I think any of my analysis of pro play. So if you go to playlists, and then go to I know you like Duality of Genji. If you just go to professional matches, if you watch those, I think they're legitimately decent analysis.
Hello and welcome.
Nice. So now this Duality of Genji video kind of has like a little bit of a cult following. It's something that it gets recommended to a lot of like really new Genji players.
It's so long though. I'm such an idiot for making it 42 minutes.
And like most of the people who I've said that way, like if you look at the views, like look, like 178 views. 148 views, 320 views, 320 views, 7,000 views, 300 views. It's good.
Well, that's because of you, I think. I think you've been promoting that video for a while.
Well, maybe. But either way, When you like, are you camera? There we go.
What? Hello?
My
Sorry.
camera went out of focus for some
Ah.
reason.
Sure.
Now, what do you play in ranked? What is your main role in ranked?
I play. I fill. I just fill.
Okay.
And if I have to play support, I'll go Zen. If I can't get Zen, I'll go Anna. I refuse to play Mercy and Lucio. I'm sorry to all you Mercy and Lucio mains. It's just not
You're
my
actually
thing.
breaking up really bad. Do we still have a?
Testing. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. I can.
Ooh, you're Mr. Destructoid. No.
Oh no. Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
You're not downloading anything in the background or anything like that?
I am not downloading. No.
Is it on my end? We have suddenly lost a stable connection with you.
Should we recall?
Yeah, well, let's try that.
Hello.
Ring ring. Are you still
Yes.
Mr. Roboto?
I can hear you perfectly. If
Oh,
if-
that actually fixed it. Nice.
Yay.
Okay.
Technology.
Or did you go Roboto again on me?
Oh no.
No, I think
Hello?
you're fine. Okay, we're just gonna keep rolling because I know it's getting late there. But
All right.
I needed
I
to
forgot
finish
what we
off
were
my
talking about. Oh yeah, the duality Genji. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Drunk Pack with the tier 1 for 4 months in a row. Welcome back. Sweeper OW with the 100 bits. Cheers, my friend. No message attached. The March Girl with Prime Sub. Welcome to the Elo Hunters. I hope you enjoy your stay. Hope you're learning a lot. Coach Seksi's teaching you more than I am right now, but I sure as hell don't mind. I'm just taking the day off. Let other people teach you. Yakutaka with the 100 bits says, I'm back for a minute. Hi, how's it going? It's going really well. Pansy with the Prime Sub. Sombro with the Prime Sub. Bad Rabbits. Kerr0823 and Sir Bastions, all with the Prime Sub. I appreciate the support, you guys. Ones that are keeping the lights on. I'm going in full time in 8 days. Did you know that? Full time.
Oh, that's so exciting.
8 days. April 30th, my last day at work, and I'm full
Well,
time
what's
Overwatch
your
after
what's your
that.
job again?
Digital literacy instructor is my actual title. I teach computer science related topics, including 3D printing, to school age children and seniors. So I work
That's
for.
awesome. Yeah.
I'm a teacher at a library.
Yeah. Okay. Taking the leap. I love it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Benny Kevins donated 500 bits, spamming that Mr. Destructoid emote. I am your Oni-chan with Prime, and then Remote Heron resubscribing with tier 2 for 5 months in a row. Welcome back, Remote Heron. It's amazing. I've only been streaming for like 5 months. I think 2 weeks away from the 6-month mark or something like that. So amazing how much the stream
Nice.
has grown. Do I coach a team? Yes, technically. I'm working with Tainted Minds. Due to them being Aussie and me being American, I've only been able to help them like 1 or 2 days a week. So it's not like I'm full-time coach, but yeah, I work with Australian contenders. Okay, let's look at Lijiang Tower. And it looks like Control
Whoop,
Center
whoop.
is going to be our first one.
Yeah, and my apologies if my analysis drops off a bit. I am starting to get towards the end of the day. I'm getting really tired. So.
We'll try and speed things up a
All
little
right,
bit.
sounds
So
great.
we'll put a hard cap if this goes. We'll try and keep this one under an hour. Okay.
Cool.
I appreciate you being a trooper. I'm sure chat does too.
No problem.
Okay.
All right.
Game 5.
So Control
So-
Center, normally a map
Yep.
that we angry Korean fans. Now normally we see like heavy tank combinations. We've
All right,
seen kind
XC
of
on the
Reaper.
tracer here,
Now
actually, to
Element
start
Mystic
things off is
seem to
Climax.
still favor the Sombra. Now we're running the Lucio Zenyatta Sombra, and the enemy team.
Can you pause it actually?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, just we seem to have two very different approaches to Control Center coming out here, and not approaches that we normally see in Control Center and maybe like North American contenders, where Element Mystic running this Sombra Tracer dive, whereas Ardeont is more running this counter dive with the McCree Junkrat, and then the
Yeah.
Mercy Zenyatta. So Element Mystic running Tracer Sombra dive, and more or less full dive just with the Sombra instead of Genji, and then Ardeont running the counter dive. So thoughts about this composition here?
Yeah. So I guess Ardeont was expecting. So actually, the first thing I want to talk about is that Junkrat. So in white, and I don't know. Actually, what do you call where Winston is right now?
Server.
Server. Okay. And then what about like the stairs
Dark.
behind him and in front of him? Dark. Okay. Oh man, that's gonna be really confusing for me. Okay.
Do you
so,
do it backwards, or do you call
so
dark server?
So dark is the place where the Mega is in past Winston, like ahead of him, like to his right.
Yep.
Wait, but you just said that was.
I'll draw on the screen so that we're understanding the same colors.
Yeah, that would be great.
So this area is server, and then in this room is dark.
And what's behind Winston? Like where his teammates are?
Oh, this?
Yeah,
Just mini.
Mini. Okay, that's not bad.
Is there a specific call for this area that you use?
Lijiang isn't in our map pool right now, and I forgot what we called that.
Yeah,
so
I think normally we just call this mini.
Yeah, I think we do call it mini. And then when you call server, I call white.
Oh, white is the place with the astronaut suits.
No, I call those suits.
Why the fuck?
All right. All right. So anyways, server. Okay, so right now with the Junkrat, typically you're hoping for a fight, like a duel in server, right? That's where Junkrat really excels here.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, he literally is like trash tier in any other kind of duel, right? Especially into this comp, right? Because there's no like Reinhardt to shield bust. You're literally just hoping that someone walks into your left clicks, and that's about it. And as you can see, Repel on the left side of your screen, he's gonna, if I'm not mistaken, he's gonna wrap around, go coast, and get on that Mega outside, and that's it. He's free, and the rest of the team's free. D.Va and Winston can get the positions they want. They have the Lucio, which means they get first dibs on positioning, whereas Ardeont does not. Again, and what you're going to see here is Ardeont's just going to get suffocated. They're just going to chuck, left clicks with Junkrat and then hope that McCree pops off, and surprise, surprise, that doesn't happen, and they just lose outright. So this actually is going to be a really sad showing. So yeah, go ahead and play.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you that Junkrat can only do like that shield busting, because Junkrat's trap can prevent dives from certain vectors. It's kind of one of that staple anti-dive with the trap. It can prevent flanks, or at least give advanced warning to flanks, and its concussion mine is a form of peel.
Sure.
I think you're underselling how valuable Junkrat can be against a dive. I think
but here is the conundrum. Like I mentioned, Element Mystic has positional advantage. They're going to get all the positions they want first.
Yes.
And
because they're running Lucio to no fault of the Junkrat.
That's fair. Actually, you're totally fair about that. However, one thing I want to mention is that Element Mystic, they don't have to dive here. They're
doing the same thing they did on Shrine, taking positional advantage, and then they have no incentive to engage because they'll get first cap if the opponent does not engage upon them. Again, to no fault of the Junkrat.
Yeah, that's fair. However, let's imagine a scenario where Ardeont is running a Lucio and Junkrat gets to point faster.
Yes.
Where would you put him?
Now, even if you did have Lucio, you'd be wanting to take the same mini position, but you may want to be extending farther into server so that McCree has better sight lines. Because right here, Element, like as you said, is going to suffocate because they managed to move on to point and take the advantages they want. Tracer's get into position that she wants and whatnot, but
what about the Junkrat? Because you said the McCree can get on server.
So the Junkrat can protect against like this flank here or the flank from behind with a trap or something, where the Tracer is going to have to like destroy the trap before she pokes, or if she wants to attack from this vector, this could give warning. If the Sombra tries to come in from behind or something like that, the trap can catch her out there, as well as if they do, if the dive does come into the McCree, who's positioned a little bit more into the server here, the concussion mine can make space for the McCree, knocking the tanks away, and since they've used the cooldown, they can't actively seek cover.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. However, I feel like because Element Mystic is not doing that, that tanky thing where you kind of push through either to main or through server, the Junkrat, in my opinion, his value drops significantly. And while the points you mentioned are valid, I would rather have a Tracer or a Sombra or something else that, in my opinion, is going to add more value, because although he can peel and he can, put traps, like you're going to see here, they do just get suffocated. And even though
I'm going to agree with you that there would be better characters than Junkrat. However, Junkrat is more of a generalist pick here, is that he can work against dive, but if the opponent is running the more traditional comp that we see, these 3 tanks coming through mini observer, this is insurance that their composition will still be able to at least survive in some manner against a very tank-heavy composition, because in a tank-heavy composition, 3 or 4 tanks, Riptire becomes the win condition. So somebody who is the win condition against a more meta composition and is functional against possible alternatives, I think is still a strong pick.
Yeah, and Yeah, I would generally agree with that. It's just, like you said, it's sad they don't have a Lucio because now they're in dire straits. Like, it's going to be really hard for Ardeont to win at literally at this moment in time. I struggle to see how Ardeont pulls this off without McCree popping off.
Now, when you
Or
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, or, someone walks into Junkrat spam, because it would be really hard for Element Mystic to walk into that spam in this situation.
Now, are you saying that it's sad that they don't have a Lucio because they weren't there first, or would you actually want either Zenyatta or Mercy to be on Lucio instead?
And that's kind of the conundrum. It's like, yeah, you kind of want the Mercy.
You want to be there first, but having Lucio instead of one of these healers is suboptimal in this composition.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, which probably tells me the comp is not very strong. They probably should have rethought this.
Fair point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's going to be sad. Literally, they're just hoping Kree gets a pick here. Area denial with the Junkrat, as you can see, not that great. And to your point, a lot of that has to do with just the fact that he didn't get into the position he wanted. But like these sightlines for Junkrat are not that great.
Nope.
It's just it's sad, and he tries to change his position, gets destroyed. There's literally nowhere he can go that makes him a happy Junkrat. He's a sad Junkrat right now.
He is a sad Junkrat.
and like we talked about earlier, we're not going to get a whole lot of fights here. I don't recall if Ardeont gets 2 or 3 fights at this point from here on out, but we will find out together. Yeah. They swap. Oh, yeah. They swapped the soldier. I am so confused as to why they did not swap the Junkrat right here. I was like,
yeah, the
what?
soldier swap is. Why would why would you want soldier here instead of McCree though?
I mean, yeah, like, yeah, actually, yeah. If you wouldn't mind pausing it real quick. I think the Kree was totally fine. That being said, I think swapping the soldier is also okay. But to your point, actually, yeah, I think the Kree is actually still better. So what confuses me is why they swapped that and not this Junkrat.
Yeah, because like McCree is a huge threat against the Tracer and the Sombra, whereas if you're really the threat of that flashbang, those two characters basically get free reign. They don't even have to worry about the flashbang. The Tracer has to worry about the Helix melee, but only if they're in melee range. So yeah, I could definitely question the swap off of the McCree and onto the soldier here.
Actually, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but you're totally right. Like that actually, now that I think about it, that bothers me just as much as them keeping the Junkrat. Like those are both 2 terrible decisions.
Mm-hmm. Like very questionable switching off of McCree against the Tracer Sombra.
Yeah, 100%.
And this EMP should give Element Mystic, especially with Ardeont not having ultimates, the EMP should just allow second fight to go in favor of Element Mystic very one-sidedly.
Yep. That's this is a feels bad situation. Like there is so little that Ardeont can do with this composition. It's actually incredible how bad it is.
Now we have to remember that Ardeont does end up winning Li Jiang and winning the series.
Oh yeah. And the compositions are drastically different, which we will cover. Yeah.
Okay. So here we are. Yeah. Ardeont does finally switch off the Junkrat and switches on to the Sombra. So now we're running Soldier Sombra, not a composition we've traditionally seen. It's kind of like anti-dive, but
yeah, it's kind of weird. And you can tell that Ivy is not a Sombra player. Like, yeah, he leaps. Actually, can you pause it? So, a couple things I want to mention here.
Pause. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. So. He leapt there. I'm not sure if because do your viewers have sound, or is that just me who doesn't have sound?
I've had it muted while you're talking, so they haven't heard much sound.
Oh, okay. So right there, he leapt away from Ivy, who was trying to hack him. So that was a really good leap away. Very good response time, because him being hacked there with Primal, he actually could have died. So that was really well played by Ardeont, and then Popo played it really well to counter that by leaping away. However, if you can keep playing it, or actually wait, I think could you go back a little bit?
Sure.
This bubble that Popo does is really strange to me. So yeah, you can go ahead and play it.
Popo's bubble, okay.
Oh yeah, Popo. So right here, he leaps away from the hack. Right there, excellent. Now if you could pause it right here, this is really strange to me. He uses his bubble, and this bubble is a complete waste. I don't know why he does this bubble. He's going to have ultimate very soon. Yeah, this is weird to me because it literally just gets obliterated and it creates no space for his team because his team's not ready to fight right now.
Yeah, so and he doesn't need to block Soldier's damage, right? He's got his Primal if he needs it. He's still got his healers alive if he needs it. His healers still have their support ults. Both of them are coming online. Yeah, this bubble could definitely be used in a better way.
Yeah,
like, there's no real reason to use it at all at the moment.
Right. Yeah, there's not. Like, yeah, if he was at like 85% and he's getting that primal, okay, yeah, sure, I believe that. Here, this bubble serves almost no value. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, or keep playing?
And I think Yakpung does a similarly weird bubble like right after this. So if you can,
Yeah, that's why I was kind of like questioning, because I saw the Yakpun bubble, which was like question mark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's kind of a throw. Like, who can do the worst bubble? He backs up. And then that bubble, yeah, it's like, what is that for? Like, if actually, I think I talk about this in one of my videos where a defensive style bubble is typically not what you want. You want like your bubbles to be very aggressive so you can get into position and create space for your team. Throwing a bubble down so that your soldier can poke for 1 second is bizarre, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So I think right here, okay, if you can pause this.
I didn't know you could make that jump without translocator.
Yeah, her stealth makes her quite fast.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so now we're going to start talking about ultimates from Dako, because I think he has a lot of bad ultimates in this series, if my memory serves correctly.
Yep.
However, this one was actually probably one of his better ones in terms of using Diva ultimates early. So if you ever watch any of my videos, you know that I generally dislike self-destruct to be used early in a fight, especially as an engagement tool. There are exceptions. This is one of them, but I want to highlight all the things that have to go right and that cannot go wrong when you're doing an ultimate like this. So as you can see, Dako just threw his ultimate out, and it's to the right of the screen. It's about to pop, and he did it with a full health Diva.
Yes.
So the first thing I don't like about that is Diva as like a baiting tool with self-destruct is incredibly powerful, and it's a very good default way to play Diva. Like, I would recommend to any reviewers who play Diva, if you use Diva's ultimate like 98% of the time as the way I just mentioned, which is basically just get really aggressive and then just throw the Diva ultimate up in the air or at an angle, that is a very effective tool and a very effective way to use Diva ultimate. And if you use that the vast majority of the times, you will climb. Whereas if you try to do these fancy ones, especially in ranked, they will probably fail more than half the time because there's so many things that have to go right. So what are those things? The first is you have to put it in open space. So in this case, that is the case, right? She actually threw it in a position that is fairly open and likely to hit multiple people. The second thing is you have to be certain that your opponents are going to come through that area. So if you accidentally do this ultimate and then your team, your opponents decide to go, I think you call it white, right? Like the suits area.
Yes.
Then this ultimate's a complete waste. Another thing you want to watch out for is that the enemy team does not have a Lucio. Because if they don't have a Lucio, there's a good chance it actually will hurt someone or kill someone or burn critical cooldowns. And in this case, Ardeont does not have a Lucio, so that's actually pretty good. The fourth thing is that you have to hope that the Winston does not bubble that ultimate. And again, when you use the Diva ultimate as an engagement
already
tool,
dropped his bubble, right?
He actually does it in reaction to it. He actually does try. He does, yeah. If you want to go back a little bit, he actually does try to
I just assumed that the bomb was reactive to the bubble, not the other way around.
The bubble was reactive to the bomb. So right there it goes off, and then he drops it. But if you can you pause it?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if you can just go back to just after the bomb explodes.
I will pause right after the bomb explodes.
Yeah. Right there. Okay, so you can see Yakpung, he actually screws up the bubble and doesn't place it correctly. So it actually hits him, it almost kills him, and it actually boops him off the map, so it forces him to use Primal. So Element Mystic is actually, Dako actually got pretty lucky that he gets a pretty sweet deal out of this trade. So I want to mention a couple more things. So I mentioned the bubble. You have to be certain that it doesn't get bubbled because, as I mentioned, if you use it as an engagement tool, there's a good chance that Winston's going to have his bubble if he doesn't misplay it, and he's going to bubble it. Another thing you have to be careful of is the timing, because by doing this kind of zoning engagement self-destruct, your goal is to split the team, right? You're trying to split them, and in this case, he was trying to get some of the team inside and some of the team outside. That way they could kill, in this case, this Mercy, which they actually messed it up. I don't think they actually killed this Mercy. Yeah, sorry, what are you circling?
Is this bomb, like, one of the things that you said is that the bomb is going to force them to split or burn cooldowns, to get away from it because it is an open area. Is the timing of this bomb with guard's flank allowing him to try and get a kill onto either Ivy or Climax, or at least fight them without getting peeled for?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and that's actually the last thing I wanted to mention. I think I mentioned what 6 things.
Quite a
The
few.
la-
You've
yeah. So the
you
last
did
thing
your homework on this map.
yeah. So yeah, so the last thing is you need to make sure that your teammates are 100% ready to follow up with that bomb, because if they do not capitalize on all the space you just created, then that's going to drastically reduce the effectiveness of the bomb. So all of this is just to say that for your viewers out there, I just want to highlight how much care and thought goes into bombs like this, because if you don't do it correctly in ranked, you're just going to look like a fool.
Yeah.
And we're going to see actually more of those later in this series, where Dako and I think actually Humbaba, they do some bombs that are very questionable. And even this one, if Yakpum actually correctly bubbles that bomb, the effectiveness of this self-destruct is actually would be reduced significantly. So as you can see here, Element Mystic, they use bomb, and Dako's about to die because Humbaba goes and kills him. But in return, Ardeont or Element Mystic is going to force Primal Rage. They're going to force, I think, Valk and I think Trance, because I think Violet's going to save Rain right now with the Trance. So all in all, a very good trade for Element Mystic. But again, I'm generally not a fan of these ultimates, because if they are not done correctly, if you don't like check all your boxes and get everything right, you're going to look like a fool. And yeah, like 1 time out of 10, you might look like a genius, but the rest of the time you're going to look bad, even at the professional level. So that's my rant about Diva Ultimates as engagement tools. It's okay if you do it correctly, but you better be damn sure you do it correctly.
Awesome.
All right, enough about that. Cool.
Let me know when you'd like me to pause.
Yeah, so he gets the and it also forces the self-destruct. Oh, wait, I said Valk. It didn't force the Valk. It forced the self-destruct. So, anyways, a good trade overall from the perspective of Dako. They get a lot of ultimates out, and that actually helps a lot for this last fight, because Ardeont had to expend a ton of resources due to that bomb. Yeah, so it actually puts him in a really good place. But again, if a couple things don't go right for Dako, they could have looked really silly here and actually thrown this series. This map.
So Ardeont gets 100 to 0'd on the first round of tiebreaker Koth.
Crazy, right?
Wow, I wish I had stayed up to watch this one.
Yeah, it's
this is like 3 a.m. for me or something. Okay. So second map, are we going to Gardens or Night Market?
Yep.
Gardens. Okay. Just a bit of a glitch in the video, looked like. Let's pop over to Gardens.
Oh man, I'm getting so hungry. I need to go get some food after
the
this
munchies.
Somewhere. I definitely have the munchies. The only thing open right now.
Hopefully it doesn't buffer too much. Okay. So now we're seeing XZI or Z. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Actually, yes. Can you pause it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So from the perspective of Ardeont, look at their composition. This is much more, in my opinion, their comfort. And I don't know what their game plan was going into it, but I'm very happy that they started to just go to what works for them.
Yep.
Yeah, just go dive. And they made the adaptation to go for the Moira instead of the Zen. I think that's 100% okay. I love it. There's no backline with this composition, so that's like a weakness that's removed. But like I talked about earlier, without like a Kree or like a soldier or something like that, or like a whatever, their win condition is very reliant on very good clean dives. That is 100% how they have to win this match. And of course other things like good ultimate economy management, things like that. But I love this. I love that they decided to go normal here. And to be fair to them, Control Center, the previous map, would be the one map where you probably do something funky with like a Junkrat, because it's kind of a weird map in that sense. Whereas Gardens and Night Market are much more open and flexible. So yeah. Yep.
Now XZI on the Widowmaker, was this specifically a counter pick to a potential Pharah? Does Ardeont have a Pharah player?
I'm not too familiar with who plays Pharah on Ardeont. I don't remember right now if they actually do run Pharah. So I'm not quite sure what this pick was for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, so what we're going to see here is just a really good dive from Ardeont. Just super aggressive. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's good. I'll just say it's very aggressive and very decisive.
Well, they're running Moira Lucia, right? They can 6-0 dive if they want to.
Right, exactly. So, again, I won't say this is a good dive, but it's very decisive and it's very aggressive, which in my opinion, by nature, makes it a fair and valid dive. And it was blind, so they were just kind of hoping.
Positional advantage, too.
Yeah, which they haven't had at all in previous Koth maps. Like literally every single one, they've lost it, right? So this is the first time we see them getting that advantage, which is huge. Because as you mentioned, the first fight on Koth sets the pace, and it's the most important.
This is on Twitch. Twitch is
Oh, yeah. Did it lag for you too? Okay,
yeah,
so
it
it's not
looks
just
like a
me.
bitrate issue on the actual VOD.
Yeah. Oh no, we'll have to lower the quality. Oh, by the way, am I still on 720? Like you're still giving me 720, yeah?
Let me double check.
Because I want to be actually. I don't want to.
Yes, you're still on 720.
Okay, great.
Let's put it back to source. Okay.
Right. What did we miss?
And they got Coalescence. So that initial kind of 6-0 blind dive onto Element Mystic gave them Coalescence. And like you said, pop it if you got it. And they used that in order to win the first fight. So even though they lost Climax early on, don't T-Tours me, chat. Don't T-Tours me. Nope. I caught it before you said it.
Detours?
T-Tours. It's when I forget to change scenes. I caught it before chat spammed it, so it's not a T-Tours. I caught it before chat spammed it. You can spam it all you want. I caught it before you said it. But yeah, the big thing here is that they just got Coalescence immediately, and even with Climax dropping, they still win. Just get because would you consider Coalescence a temp ult? I've been calling it a temp ult for months. So
Tempo?
I hope, where you it doesn't it's not a singular kind of a burst, or whereas like a high noon or again. Why are we buffering?
Well, while it's buffering, I guess I can comment on that. I guess that's good language to describe it. I think that it's one of those ultimates that you just spam the heck out of it. Like when you have it, you just use that thing. Again, like the vast majority of the time. I don't want to say always, but it's one of those things that you can just use it because you will get it back very quickly. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. I've locked it to 720/60. It's not as crisp as it was, but
oh, and it's lagging again.
I think this is
on
Twitch. I think this is on Twitch's end, and unfortunately, we don't have the MLG player like we would for Overwatch League games. So
Feels
Twitch
bad.
is limited to 6K bitrate.
Oh, actually, can you pause it right here?
There's a lot of shit going on. I did not catch it all.
And there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, first off, let's look at Ardeont's engagement. Oh, and actually, one thing I wanted to mention on the previous, on the rollout, which was that Element Mystic rolled out on the Widow, like you pointed out.
Yes.
And that actually worked in Ardeont's favor because they did the blind dive, and that's always a bit of a gamble. But they're a bit lucky that they actually had a Widow as opposed to, say, like a Kree, who probably would have favored better in that situation. So a little bit of luck on Ardiont's side, but I think they deserved it at this point.
And better be luck's a skill, right?
Luck's totally a skill. Okay, so a lot to unpack here. First off, Bomb Blade Ardeont combo. I kind of want to ask you and your viewers: do we like Bomb Blade?
It's kind of
in this situation.
You want Bomb Blade? Let's put up a Twitch poll if you want to.
What do you guys think? Is this cool? I have my own opinions, which I will share after I kind of get other people.
Does chat think Bomb Blade is good or bad? Let me just set up a poll. Good, bad. Start poll. It's fun how much you can influence the poll just by the tone of your voice when you ask the question.
Oh no, yeah, I was trying to be neutral, but
I think you were. I think you were neutral enough. Looks like it's about 2/3 of chat thinks it's bad combo, 1/3 thinks it's a good combo. And the combo that we used to see with the bomb all the time was, especially on this map right here and in this exact location, which is why I'm thinking this is kind of an evolution of that strat, is that since Pharah has played so much on Gardens, people would bomb and then barrage in the one location where people had available to them to hide. Now, the Pharah would normally die, but even if you trade 1 or 2, that's still a pretty decent trade, and it'll win you the team fight. So the bomb barrage, you know that people are going to have to hide from the bomb in a singular location. So what the Bomb Blade does is kind of like a variant of Bomb Barrage, in the fact that the Genji knows that the people are going to be hiding from the bomb in very specific locations. And this looks like a set bomb to me. So, and 100%. Whose blade? It's Ivy's blade. And we can see Ivy right here. On the right side of the screen. And you can see he is blading behind the one rock. Why is my mouse? Technical issues everywhere. Hello?
Hello.
My mouse is not... Anyway, Ivy is blading in the one place the bomb is not going to kill, right? So the bomb is going to land in this doorway. So anybody who's in this area is going to die. The only place for them to hide is behind this rock, and that's where Ivy is blading. This is basically the bomb barrage strat, just with blade instead of barrage.
Right. So, and a couple things to mention here is that the first is, notice on the bottom left hand of the screen, Dako actually just ultied his bomb, right? Sorry, he threw his bomb.
Yes.
Now, Ardeont got very lucky that Element Mystic decided to counter this with 2 ultimates, because realistically, they probably only needed to use the trance or the bomb. In my opinion, both are valid. So first off, Ardeont got lucky that EM used both, but we'll ignore that for a second. So remember when I talked about earlier about how the more, on that checklist of bombs, if you're going to use it as an engagement tool or like an opening tool, you want to have as many of those things checked as possible. One thing that's against Ardeont right now is that that is against, against Ardeont, is that Element Mystic has a Lucio, which means they're much more quick. They can get into position much more quickly. So you might be surprised by this, but that Lucio, Jeksy, is going to survive this blade. And partly it's because he was able to avoid the bomb because he has speed boost and then get back into that trance after the bomb goes off. And he's going to get, healed up very quickly. I'm not sure if Ivy missed a swing. I don't think he did. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he did not. And then Pokebo, he uses his shield, his bubble, to make sure he doesn't die to that bomb. So this bomb gets no kills. And if I'm not mistaken, this bomb blade actually gets 0 kills. Maybe it gets 1. But I'm not sure if it does. So anyways, all that being said, I actually think Bomb Blade is actually a pretty good combo to use.
You baited chat so hard.
I did. So, I don't like results-driven analysis. It's one of the things I like to stomp out with, players and people who say, oh, like this worked, that means it must be good. It's like, no, obviously that's bad logic. Even though this play fails, in my opinion, overall, I still think it's still a good bomb blade. And then, like I said, Element Mystic threw a little bit by putting way too many resources into countering it. So Ardeont got a bit lucky here. All right, anyways, the last thing I want to mention is that even though I said Bomb Blade is good, consider this. If Element Mystic, if Ardeont had just used the bomb to open as an engagement tool, and then therefore get like a better fight to force cooldowns, to force people to get low health bars, there's a relatively good chance that Repel is going to use trance anyways. And then guess what? After that, then you go for a blade. So just one thing I want to throw out there that could have been, potentially better.
60% of people said that Bomb Blade was bad, so you got chat real good. You got chat real good. You should take up streaming. You'd be great at it.
I mean, it's one of those things that obviously we said good or bad. It's neither, right? Like it's somewhere in the middle. So
awesome. Let's keep rolling.
All right. Cool. So, yep. That's he doesn't get any kills there with that blade. 2 for 2 on the ultimates, I think, at that point in time, at least. Now it's fight's getting a bit more sloppy. Things are happening.
Now, what just 30 seconds or less. Once fights get sloppy or devolved or chaotic, whatever word you want to call.
I love this question already.
What is the most important factor that determines which team wins?
I love this question. Oh God, sorry. I just need to point out that I'm really hungry right now.
We'll remove the 30-second requirement. Go nuts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just bear with me because I'm starting to get really hungry. Okay. So that question, I love it because it has to do with comms. More than anything, it has to do with really good communication, because obviously at the professional level, all players need to be able to make good real-time decisions all the time, right? It's obviously. However, that being said, your question, which was about, once a fight starts to devolve and get scrappy and sloppy, how do you pull that back? And one of the things that professional players have over, people who just randomly play in ranked is really good communication. So there are very important comms that have to be made in a fight like this. A couple examples, group on X, like heals are at X, so like group on, like maybe Ardeont right now is saying, Oh, actually, no. Actually, yeah. A good example is Ardeont. Ardeont might be saying like Violet, who's who's coalescing? Fuck. Wait, I'm confused. There's a coalescent on the screen, but how is?
It's a right.
Oh,
click.
is that a?
No,
Oh, that's a right click.
Yeah,
I'm
they
sorry.
changed
I'm
the
sorry.
visuals. It's just a right.
Yeah,
click.
yeah. That's my bad. Okay, so for a second, let's just assume that Violet had coalescence running right now. He might be calming group up on Yakpun because Yakpun, I'm going to be left clicking him with coalescence, or actually just coalescing him. Another thing might be group on point, because as you can tell right now, Element Mystic is putting pressure on the point. They've got it to almost 2/3 or about 2/3. Another call might be to group up on point, or on a payload map, group up on point, or sorry, on the cart, and fight around that. So typically what you'll see is an engagement, the fight might get split, and like the fight kind of expands, and then when a fight starts to get sloppy, you want to do your best to contract the fight and get your teammates to group up as quickly as possible, and then by virtue of that, you can then start target calling more effectively and focus down someone very quickly.
Follow-up question.
So
I'm going to interject here. What is the best way? Because I've heard teams of doing it two ways primarily to keep their formation tight during chaotic team fights. The first one is calling targets, and everyone basically groups on the target that they're attacking. And the second one is saying stack on and then a name or a character. So stack on Winston. So if you instead of grouping based on the thing you're attacking, you group based on like a tank or a healer or something. So do you prefer the target calling approach? Do you prefer the stack on X approach, or do you prefer a third unnamed approach to keep things coordinated?
I think it's all contextual. Like it really, I think you need both, because realistically, you do need both. Healers are typically going to call group on X, and I think DPS and frontliners are typically going to call target whatever. That's typically how I've seen it. There are other comms that can help in a situation like that. Realistically, they're just all tools in your tool belt, and you need to know when to use which one. And different players in different roles will use different comms. So yeah, I think that explains it. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
Cool. All right, what's happening here? Just clean up, I suppose.
There was just a donation.
Cool.
I'm going to pause momentarily. Vash2415 donated $5. Says, people may not think this is a big deal, but I started PC Overwatch after Christmas. Never played PC before and don't have much time to play because of work. Placed in upper silver. Thanks to your insight and thanks to your knowledge and insight, just recently made it to platinum. Congratulations, Vash.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump for 3-4 months. From upper silver to platinum. Yeah, that is not a jump to laugh at. Congratulations. Are you going for diamond? Hopefully. Keep up the climb, dude.
Climb. All right.
Embrace the grind. Embrace the climb.
All right. What do we have here?
Ardeont won the scrappy fight, and now we're moving into Element Mystic having to retake, which could be the final fight. Is there going to be two fights or one fight remaining?
I think there's two more. I don't recall exactly, but I think there's two.
Yeah.
And look at Violet. Already has coalescence again. How many coalescences have I used already? Like
this
two?
This will be the third one?
Yeah, I think this is his third. Aggressive coalescence. I like this from Ardeont. I do not like this from Element Mystic.
What about this don't you like from Element Mystic?
Can you go back?
Absolutely.
Can you go back? Okay. So.
Oh, did I
think you went forward.
What?
Because we were at like 50-something%. I think that might be too far back. Actually, I don't know anymore. What is life?
Twitch player? I'm going to refresh. This page has been giving me troubles. Okay. We refreshed.
All right. Yay.
So we're about to see Violet get his third coalescence, pop it.
Oh, yeah. Pop those coalescence.
Yeah, pop it.
Okay.
Pop, lock, and drop it.
So right here, this play that Element Mystic does, in my opinion, it's rushed. Can you pause it right now? Okay. Oh, actually, is that someone in the middle of the screen? Is that Tracer?
Yes, that is Z.
So right now, the ideal situation, in my mind, for Element Mystic is to start putting pressure on the point. That way, your front line doesn't have to go through the hell that is Bridge, right? Because from Bridge, you can get booped. You can go through Coalescence. There's all this crap that you deal with going through Bridge. In my mind, the better play is send Tracer, in this case XZ, by herself to point. And if she's having too much trouble with, their Tracer, you give her, or actually, no, okay, she doesn't have Orb, so then you probably send her with Sombra. And you look for a way to create pressure on the other side of the map. That way your transition into bridge is much easier. Or heck, maybe you dive over bridge with the exception of the subs. And so them just doing this kind of brute force is a bit weird to me. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess to sum up, they should have created pressure somewhere else on the map. In this case, it's probably point. And then when someone comes to contest that, that's a cue for then Ardeont to say, or for Element Mystic for their flankers to say, hey, X and Y are here, dive now. Obviously in much shorter words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a Tracer. Oh, actually, can you pause it one more second? I want to also make one more mention for your viewers. If you're a Diva player, I want you, and you're versus a Sombra, please spam everything. Literally just spam left click in all the corners and places you think Sombra
I
can
like
be.
playing Sombra in comp. You can fuck the hell off with that shit.
No, please do that. And yes, your accuracy stats.
Nope. We're just gonna mute him. Nope, he's muted. Nope, you can't hear him anymore.
Because I've had people say, oh, but like my accuracy stats, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I don't give a shit about your accuracy stats. Just please spam those stupid corners.
It's one of the tips that Guru Lols gave me. Guru Lols, again, like probably one of my favorite Diva players. It's just tragedy he's not in contenders. But not only does he spam everything to try and do Sombra checks, but he spams everything because just hitting somebody with a singular pellet makes their health bar appear, right? So he does. He does that for intel.
Ooh. I could talk about that topic all day. That's a really fun topic.
Yeah, we're just gonna give away all of the high level Diva tips, aren't we? All at one time. Okay.
Let's get it. All right. Yeah. So this push here from Element Mystic is puzzling to me. Notice at the top of the screen, just now, we started seeing pressure on the point. That is backwards. It should have been the other way around. Press the point first, then the front, the core push out. So pretty weird at this level for them to make a mistake like that. I'm not sure what was going on in their comms. Yeah. Dueling. Oh, this is sick right here. Oh my god, this is so cool.
What the? Oh my god!
Yeah, let's watch it again.
Do you want to tell? I assume chat saw it as well, but what the fuck? This trade is legit.
Come here, bitch. I love it.
Unreal. Holy shit.
If Climax had a blink, he probably should have respected that and blinked backwards. But realistically, man, that's a tough one. Okay, actually, can you go back? Because I need to talk about that play that just happened.
Okay.
All right, so play it here, and then I think pause it. Okay, so I think Ivy just bladed.
He's in blade right now, I think.
Can you pause it?
Yep.
Okay, so he gets booped.
He still gets Jesse, though, because he has a Swift Strike.
Yes. So he goes to him, and he kills him. Now, Ivy, for the next like couple of Dragon Blades, and even on the next map, Night Market, he actually misses some swings. So I have a tip for your Genji players.
Oh, you really did come prepared. I like you.
So okay. If you're an aspiring Genji player, I do not want you to rush your swing. So what I mean by that is do not hold your left click button as you're trying to learn how to Dragon Strike as Genji. What I want you to do instead is to be very deliberate with your left click swings. And as you're turning your camera to find your targets, very slowly and deliberately make those swings count. Over time, you will get much, much faster. But as you can see here, even at the professional level, I can tell, I'm like 90% sure that Ivy was holding down his left click, and he's going to miss a lot of swings, not just on this Dragon Blade, but the ones coming up. So go ahead and play this and see if you can spot the messed up.
There's one swing that missed, the dash. That swing hit, that swing hit, that swing missed, that swing missed. So three misses.
Pause it. Oh, actually, crap. Can you go back like 5 seconds?
5 seconds. 1, 2.
Okay, right. Go ahead and pause it right here. Actually, so pause it right now. Okay, right there. Perfect. So you can see Pokebo. If Ivy does not rush this next swing, and actually maybe the next 2 swings, almost certainly he kills this monkey. But he doesn't, and that's a huge throw here. This map could be over right now. But he messes that up, and that causes them to lose this next fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Spoilers.
Because actually Pokebo's about to get primal. So he gets healed up by Moira, and this is a huge mistake by Ivy. If he does not miss that swing, if he doesn't rush it, this game's over. Almost certainly it's over. Yeah. I think there was something else I missed there, but I'm getting hungry.
Coalescence
so
from the side of Mystic, giving them a ton of value on the point, putting them in advantage.
Oof.
This is going to be a retake.
And then I think Dako uses his self-destruct here, if I'm not mistaken, which... Wait, does he? No. Okay, that's a different time. Okay, cool.
No, I have not watched this before. Seksi has.
Yeah. Actually, can you go back? I want to highlight one more thing that I forgot to highlight because I had it in my notes and I forgot to mention it. Go back to the missed swings. Right. Yeah, right here. This is fine. Okay, so after yeah, you can play it. So after Ivy after Ivy misses his swings, Jexy, I think he goes for like a boop play, which you'll see if you can catch it, like after he misses his swings. Or not Jexy, sorry, Rain from O2 Ardeont.
Okay.
Yeah. So right here, I think the call in the comms was to back off, like around this moment. Go ahead and keep playing it. Yeah, so watch this Rain on the right side of the screen. Everyone's backing off, and I think he goes for like a boop play.
On the Winston?
And if I'm not mistaken, he dies for it. It's off right there. Yeah,
he
it
does.
happened really fast. Yeah, so this was actually another huge blunder. It was Humbaba who does the self-destruct. So right here, in my opinion, this self-destruct from Humbaba is really silly. Like, this is similar to the other ones we talked about, where you're at full health. If you really want to use this bomb here as D.Va, then delay the point. Like, get really aggressive and then bomb, because then at least you get health. You get the extra bonus that you
can consider D.Va mech as almost like a burst of 600 healing if it was your mech that broke before you bombed.
Yeah,
it
and
takes
that's
a lot of
way
pressure
more
off your
valuable.
healers and gets you more just health pool the opponent has to grind through. Absolutely.
Yeah, you get more DM time, more rocket time. You get to use shift again, probably, if you do it correctly. Yeah, so I'm really not a fan of that D.Va bomb.
So this fight should be Element Mystics with the
EMP, yes.
Yeah.
And
they
Ardeont does a really
wall
good...
climbing Genji into the pit.
Actually, can you pause it for a second?
Absolutely. I'll go back a little bit.
Yeah. So I want to highlight that this is actually a really good play from Ardeont, assuming that it was planned, because I know how I talked about earlier, I didn't like Element Mystic going bridge. In this case, if I was Ardeont, I would actually want the Sombra to EMP me right here and immediately drop off and die. So I'm actually kind of upset.
You're just like, you get EMP'd and then you just chuck her into the pit, right?
Yeah, because then, like we talked about early on in Nepal, if you can be really disciplined about your ultimate economy and fights and and things like that, you get more fights. And I can't stress, I know I keep saying this, but getting more fights in Koth is so important. So anyways, yeah, so, and I was kind of pissed off that some of the players in Ardeont actually didn't fall off quickly enough, like the Tracer, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a detail, but an important one in my opinion.
So both support ults came out from the side of Element Mystic. Ardeont still has Barrier in reserve. Pretty even fight so far. Rain having held on to the sound barrier. Yakpung dies for it, and he died with Primal against a Pulse Bomb. Was this a mistake?
Yeah. Actually, can you go back? Because I was still talking about the other thing, and I forgot to talk about this fight. Okay, so right here, if we look at ultimates, they just use EMP. Element Mystic has 4 ultimates. Ardeont has 2. Can you pause it right here?
Absolutely.
And they're about to have 4. Okay, so right now, if I was Ardeont and I was shot calling, and we just got EMP'd, I would say we're going to eco one more fight. We're going to force Trance, or sorry, not Trance, Beat, because, they probably know that they have Beat. If not, maybe some other ultimate. Eco that fight. Don't use any ultimates. If I was going to use an ultimate, it'd maybe be Coalescence or Pulse or both, because they are so quickly charged. And then make sure that fight doesn't drag on too long. If we're winning, obviously we commit. If we don't, we jump off and we die. We don't want a long fight. And then we have a very easy win on the next fight, because you're basically in a race here against Sombra, right? If she can get EMP between now and your next fight, you're going to screw yourself over. However,
that's going to be my follow-up question. Glad you asked that. Yeah.
Right. So if you can beat that if you can do this fight before Sombra's at like 70 or 60%, you will guaranteed win the next fight, as long as you do nothing fancy, run on the point, use beat, use whatever, get in there and start fighting. 100% you will win. All right, let's watch it. So right here, I think Rain dies early again, if I'm not mistaken, and then I think, like you said, I think Winston dies.
Yeah, Winston dies. He has Primal, and he gets stuck, but he elects not to use it and dies.
Yeah.
And then
So
Ivy
I don't think
drops
that's a
immediately
mistake.
afterwards. You don't think
Yeah.
that's a mistake?
No, I don't. I do not think so. I like that they use Pulse and that they use
So
Coalescence.
why would they?
I probably
Why would they have used Coalescence? You use Coalescence because it's fast charging, and they were trying to get the rest of Element Mystic's ultimates out.
correct exactly. So
Okay.
if we pause it for a second, we're about to come up on 4 very important ultimates:
Beat and
Tangled,
Blade,
Beat,
and then
and
Tangled.
Blade.
Yep.
And look at Element Mystic; they have jack shit. They're coming up on a Primal. Right now, you have the best chance you're ever going to get to win this map right now. And we're going to watch how Ardeont gloriously fucks it up.
Okay, I'm excited for this.
So I think this is when Rain dies with Beat, which is like the worst blunder in the world.
Oh
like,
man, what
all you
kills
had
him?
to do here, I don't know. He just
He died off screen too. We don't even get to see what killed him.
Yeah. So again, just to reiterate for your viewers, all Ardeont had to do here was engage very strongly with Beat. During Beat, you're gonna get self-destruct, you're gonna get Blade, and Element Mystic has nothing to deal with that except a Primal. And look at Coalescence, it's already at like 80%. Pulse is at 60. If Rain doesn't die here and they just do nothing fancy, just get on to point, get on point with Beat and just win, this is the easiest fight in the world. So realistically, Ardeont should have lost this match. So now we're going to see Element Mystic with the counter throw.
With the counter throw. This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So right here, you're going to see Guard, the best swimmer in the world, as you were
Chat's saying
saying.
Lucio got hacked.
Oh, he got hacked. Okay, yeah. But again, like he didn't have to do anything fancy. He just had to beat and then just get into point. Yeah. Okay, anyway, so what you're going to see here is Guard is going to, and this is honestly, it's I almost want to say it's bad luck because he's going to go for an EMP and he misses the Genji and the Lucio.
The
Both
two,
have
the two
probably
things that he actually needed to hit.
exactly the 2 characters he actually needed to get, and or at least one of them, and he misses both. So let's watch this. Yeah, this makes me sad. Guard must be so angry at this play right here. So he sees them. He goes this way. This is good. Oh, he's gonna win the match right here. Just kidding. I missed the Lucio.
How did that miss Lucio?
Yeah, if you want to go back, if you look at the bottom right hand of the screen, you can see Lucio's POV. It just barely misses him. It's
That's
actually insane.
And that's gonna lose the match.
That's gonna lose the match, 100%.
Hello, play.
And
please, Twitch.
also Genji goes past him, and he doesn't get Genji either.
Okay,
So
there's
sad.
the translocator plant.
Actually, where was that? That was kind of a weird spot. Or was it inside? Whatever. Fine. All right, so Genji goes past.
So Genji's right there, and
Yeah, but he's about to.
So
I
Guard
think he
sees
dashed.
both Genji and Lucio, and goes
YOLO.
for the EMP.
Look at that. Look at Lucio's screen. It's like purple. It like filled his screen just out of range.
What?
Literally a hair. Like this entire series could have been done right here if he had gotten both or one of them, probably.
That's amazing.
So amazing.
And now Ardeont recap.
The counter throw.
The-
Yep, and that's a GG.
Wow.
I mean, it's hard to call that a throw because it was just he barely missed.
yeah, and he saw both of the characters that he needed to EMP, but he just by a fraction of a meter.
Yeah, that's what feels bad. So,
And
yeah,
this is just
but
cleanup.
again, I'm
Yeah.
actually a little bit angry with Ardeont for messing up their clear win condition. That as a coach, I would be very disappointed. With
Yeah,
that
the pressure though. Think of the
Oh,
pressure on
100%.
both of these
Yeah,
teams.
like-
This is map 5 in an elimination playoff series.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So obviously, we can't fault them.
So
as human
now
beings.
we're going into third map tiebreaker Koth in an elimination series.
Yep.
So do you think
Strap
it even
in.
should have made it here? Element Mystic was by far the favorites. Do you think that Element Mystic should have let it get this far in the first place?
No,
Yeah.
I don't. crazy.
Do me a huge favor. There are a few people from I assume blank in chat who want me to say hi to you. Fozix is here, and then I saw
Hey, Fozix.
Hus OW. Or
Us.
HUS 0W,
Yeah, that's us. Yeah.
and then Adam from Adam from
Oh
Australia.
yeah, blank blue. Yeah.
Cool. So some people in the chat saying hi to you.
What's up, peeps?
And we're going back to this composition we saw on Shrine for Element Mystic, and
Yeah.
they did
Oh, actually, can you pause it?
absolutely.
Sorry. All right. So yes, exactly. It's the exact same comp from Ardeont. It's their comfort. It's what they know. They do something similar here, as we just saw in Gardens, which is again like it's the blind dive. I didn't mind it so much on Bridge. There's a lot of room to work with. Sorry, I didn't mind it so much on Garden because you're diving by Bridge, and in my opinion, there's lots of plays you can make around that.
Absolutely.
However, on Night Market, I am far less of a fan of this blind dive. If I recall it fails spectacularly. Actually, I don't recall it. Actually, can we play it?
So you think Ardeont's going to do this 6-0 basically rush dive, right?
Again, yep.
And against Guard and XCI instead of the Widow, right?
Exactly. And that's the critical difference.
Yes.
One of the critical differences.
The flashbang is a huge disincentive to a 6-0 dive.
Yeah, so here it comes. YOLO. And let's see what happens. Oh, yeah, I think Ivy dies right here. Yeah. And that's kind of the interesting thing about these 6-0 dives is that once that engagement happens and you don't make a play, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, because you invested all of your resources into that dive.
Right. So again, on Gardens, I like that play. Even if actually, can you pause it? Sorry. Yeah. So just to recap, I liked it on Gardens because of the bridge. I think there's lots of plays that can be made around that. However, Night Market, way riskier to do that blind dive. I would have preferred them to just go for
now,
space.
What specifically about Night Market is making the 6-0 dive riskier? Other than the McCree, what is it about the map that's making the 6-0 dive riskier?
So on Gardens, you have Bridge where you can potentially get boops with Lucio, with Winston, with Diva. Not to mention that corner, it's kind of one of those really tight corners where it's really hard for a more backline heavy comp that Element Mystic was running with the Widow to get sightlines, right? Because that's literally that bridge, and then you can't see fuck all after that. Whereas in Night Market, you can kind of fall back into that room if they dive you and shoot you from there. Does that make sense? Whereas
you can funnel them into that more narrow corridor dive. If you do have to pursue, for example, if the full dive prolongs for more than 5 or 6 seconds, the mobilities are starting to come back up. But if you have those defenders falling back into a hallway, divers have a very tough time going through doorways and into areas that have a ceiling. So they have a more defensible 100%. Location against dive.
And not to mention there's that health pack on this map that's, in my opinion, slightly better located than the one on Gardens, which is a bit further away and a little bit more dangerous to get to, actually. Yeah. And I'm not too sure exactly who took the health pack on that last fight.
Cool.
Okay. Can you actually... Oh, actually, this is... I want to commend Element Mystic on being very mindful of how to approach this fight. Because they got it's a 6v5 because Ivy died. He's coming back from spawn. All Element Mystic has to do here is play the point. That's all they have to do. Nothing fancy. It's a 6v5. Make Ardeont come into you, and you will probably win 9 times out of 10. However, Jeksi, it's actually kind of a perfect storm. Jeksi makes a boo-boo. I think he was going for a boop, as you can see where his body is. I think he was going through that window looking for a clutch boop just to really secure the fight. But I think he accidentally falls on the other side of the window, and he did not mean to. That's the only thing I can think of, is that this is just a mechanical error, not his decision-making error, because it was really weird for him to do this when the rest of his team was ready to back off. Now, the other problem is that XZ just missed, as you just saw probably, he just missed his flashbang on Climax. Climax put a clip into him, recalled after the flashbang went down, got all his health back, and guess what? Climax is going to finish off this kill. So if Jeksi hadn't made this error right now, as you can see, Element Mystic could have put all of their resources into helping XZ. However, right now you're going to see them get split because they just went to help Jeksi, and now now XZ is going to die to this tracer. So it was a perfect storm where XZ missed his flashbang, Jeksi makes a mechanical error, and now the team gets split in their decision making, which I can't fault them for that.
And don't have the resources or the ability to save XZ against.
Yeah, it's too late. Like you're gonna see, you're gonna see Dako. He tries to DM, and he's just barely gonna be out of range. And and that's it. And then Ivy's going to come back, and it's going to be a 6v5 in the other way. So let's watch this.
I missed one donation, so I do have to take just a quick moment. Squid OW donated $5. Says, "Hey man, I was high plat 3 seasons, and after watching Kabaji a lot, I did not know until you hosted him some time back. I climbed in 1 season to 4,200. You went from plat to 4,200 in 1 season?
Well done.
Wow. Really struggling to hit top 500. Playing Tracer, Genji, Widow. Got any tips from low GM to top 500? So I'll pass that question to you, Seksi. Tracer,
Actually,
Genji, Widow.
So
playing Tracer, Genji, or Widow, tops are tips to move from low GM to top 500.
Oh man, it's sorry. I just want to point out that it's 1 a.m. here and I'm starving. So
we kind of
Genji,
misjudged our time estimate, didn't we?
yeah, we really did. I was like, oh, 2 maps, I can do that in 2 hours, no problem.
No problem. We're at like 3 hours now and counting.
Yeah. Okay, so Genji, Widow, Tracer tips.
From low GM to top 500. What's the deal breaker?
What is the deal breaker? Man. Okay. I'm going to pick one character. Actually, how about you? Can you just pick one for me, Jayne? And then
Tracer.
Tracer. Okay. Tracer. Okay, so let's just off the top of my head, how about this? When you're playing Tracer, I think one thing that you can do very effectively, just as like a structural approach to the game as Tracer at the highest levels, is to actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, this applies to all levels. So maybe this tip isn't exactly what you wanted, but I'm going to give it anyways. One thing you can do as Tracer is when you see your enemy composition, make a decision, and you know, and obviously take into account your teammates' composition as well, and make a decision what you want to do. And I see 2 things to do as Tracer, specifically in ranked. 1, farm pulse on tanks and go for a big pulse bomb, or 2, go for heavy flanks and disrupt the backline with little resources from your team. And that's going to, you know, require hopefully you're in comms. If you are in comms, and if you're in, you know, in a server that you speak the same language as your teammates, then definitely get in comms and, you know, see if you can coordinate when you're tying up, you know, Zens and Annas and soldiers and Krees so that your teammates can capitalize on that. So early on, look at the composition, look at the map, decide, okay, can I farm pulse like a madman and just go for big pulse bomb plays on tanks? Or you know, farm up on pulse bomb on tanks and then potentially go for squishies with pulse bomb, or if the moment's right, go for a tank, or go for heavy flanking play and disrupt the backline. Okay, is that
yeah,
good
that's
enough,
great.
Jayne?
Absolutely.
All right, that's the best I can do on,
that was,
at 1 a.m.
I'm sure he's very pleased with that answer.
Okay,
let's
great.
keep going.
Okay, great.
So Seksi dies.
All right, so yeah, yep. So perfect storm. Oh, actually, I said 6v5, but it's actually 6v4 because Jexy died. I forgot about that. Yeah. So that's a feels bad. Again, Element Mystic threw a little bit there,
Now,
Jexy, and then
this isn't the worst thing though for Element Mystic, because despite losing, they have some pretty powerful ults coming up, right? They have the Coalescence and the EMP. So whereas normally we'd be looking for, you know, 2-3 fights to retake, Element Mystic here can retake on the first because they did not really fall that far behind on ult economy. So the Element Mystic gets 2 picks right off the start, and they use Coalescence. So that Moira's 1. I don't know where she ended up.
Oh, get him. Yeah.
There he is.
Nope, you're totally right about that. And oh, actually, can you pause this?
The Genji duel?
Right.
Forward or backwards?
Actually, go back just 5 seconds. Go back like 5 seconds.
5 seconds. Let me know when you know to pause.
Yeah. Okay. So pause it right there. Okay. So I just want to highlight again to your viewers, these Diva ultimates, these are the ones you should be aiming for in ranked. Obviously, it wasn't ideal that she didn't get to shift that Diva ultimate, but look at the positioning. I guarantee you, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to see this exact same Diva ultimate later in the same map. And even though he did not shift, look at all the doorways this Diva bomb's looking at. Literally 5 doorways. All of them.
I'm in the way. Give me a second.
You're in the way?
Oh,
sorry.
I have a face cam. Okay, chat knows what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so right here, obviously, like those 2 doors, like away from point, like towards the courtyard, aren't as ideal. But this bomb, 100%, I guarantee you, Humbaba knew exactly what he was doing. He was gonna say, okay, I'm gonna tank as much. And if you saw the clip earlier, he took a lot of damage and then he self-destruct. So again, a tip for your viewers: if you want to climb as D.Va, rely on these types of ultimates where you bait as much of your damage as much of your health bar as possible, and then get a nice solid zoning ultimate, because then you're going to get situations like this where XZI, he has to use combat roll to get into position, and his movements are now very predictable to Ivy, because he knows he has to wait out this self-destruct. So he can read his movements. He had to use combat roll, which means it's far more likely for Ivy to win this duel. He'd have to throw to lose this duel. So yeah, go ahead and
Not
play
like
that.
we haven't seen any throws, right?
Yeah, not like we haven't seen throws. Yeah. So XEI has to combat roll out of the self-destruct, and Ivy's going to school him right here. And it's off the back of that really, really good self-destruct. Whereas, you know, I know you keep saying this, whereas like the engagement self-destructs, while very powerful if done correctly, are very high risk, high reward.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Now, Ardeont,
So
despite EM looking like they should have been able to take that back, no, Ardeont remains in control.
yeah, and yeah. Actually, yeah. Can we go back? I want to see if did I miss something else that happened? Like, obviously, I was highlighting that really good D.Va ultimate, but trying to think if there's anything else that happened that was critical to them turning that fight back. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So 2 fights to go. Mystic has High Noon. Now, High Noon, a really hard ultimate. Woo, I'm gonna pause because you're gonna want to talk about that one.
Do you remember? Remember we talked about missing swings? Hello.
Yes,
hello. Darkness,
hello.
my old friend.
But before we get into that, how do you actually want to be using High Noon on a map like Night Market?
Well, that High Noon, actually, I'm not a huge fan of it. Okay, so it is going to be results-wise, it's going to work, but it's actually off the back of misplays from Ardeont. So if actually you can go back a little bit, maybe like 5 seconds.
Sure.
So we're going to see Yakpung again. Watch him barrier right here. So pause it right there. What is this barrier doing? I don't know what it's doing. Jayne, can you tell me?
I got nothing.
Yep, that's the right answer. This is a huge waste. If he had saved this barrier for that High Noon, this goes way better. And not to mention, it gives him more time to then react and then primal, which he doesn't because he uses his barrier. So he actually dies to the High Noon with still having primal. So huge mistake from Yakpung right here. So this basically enables that High Noon, which in my opinion was an okay High Noon, but it turns it into a really good High Noon. So huge misplay.
Apparently, the answer to what is that bubble doing is that bubble is doing its damn best. Okay, Seksi, lay off.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I should be treating all bubbles equally.
Okay, let's. I'll play this blade in 25% speed so that you can talk about the swings as they're
Sounds
going on.
Great. Yeah. So right here we have oh, and by the way, Ardeont, they have a baby D.Va right now. So I love that they're getting aggressive here because they have to make a play. So I love this play from Ardeont Mystic, or sorry, from Ardeont. It's just a shame that Yakpung kind of whiffed that earlier bubble, and he doesn't use primal. All right, so here we're going for the big fancy blade, and let's watch him screw this up. So there's a swing.
There's /1.
Swift. Oh, actually, did he miss the Swift Strike too? And then there's a miss swing. Yeah, can you go back a bit? It looked like he actually missed the Swift Strike as well.
Very easy to do against a Lucio, surprisingly so.
Yeah, I can't fault him for that, but I can fault him for looking in the wrong direction when Dragon Blading.
Let's look at Jexi's health. He grabbed the Mega. He eats. No,
he does land the Swift Strike. Yep. Oh, actually, yeah, I was looking at Rain. I'm retarded. Sorry. All right, yeah. So then, big swing misses. Oh, this hurts. Kill something, Ivy. Oh, huge misplay. Yeah. The counter throw. It's okay. We're going to see Element miss a counter throw later. Aren't you excited for that?
Yes, I'm very excited for this.
I mean, at this point, though, like you said, this is game 5. Is it game 5? Yeah.
Yep.
Last round of Koth, best of 3, the last point. So these players are under immense stress and panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we're gonna see that later. Exi's gonna make a brilliant throw, which I love. It's gonna
brilliant throw.
it's actually really juicy, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
So Ardeont, unfortunately, they missed a lot of swings, and they messed up the the bubble and the primal actually, and that's a little bit of just a minor boo-boo, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's going on here? Poking away. Oh right, actually, can you pause it? If I'm not mistaken, I think the tracer was just on our screen, like on the right-hand side. I hate that Ardeont is not doing what we talked about earlier. Put a tracer or a sombra. Well, in this case, it has to be tracer.
Yep.
Put her on the point, create pressure, and make a play off of that. I don't like that they're just pushing. What do you call this area?
I don't actually have a call for this area other than Mega.
Okay, yeah, let's just call it Mega. All right, yeah, I don't like that they're just kind of pushing this blindly. Can you play it? Because I think Element Mystic EMP's here, if I'm not mistaken, or is that the next one? Yeah, like what is that tracer doing? Like she does not get a lot of value there.
Yeah, she was just kind of like in the middle of the courtyard.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then I think Ardeont does the same thing again, and I don't know why. You can play it. Yeah. They go into Mega, and they get EMP'd, and they probably know that Guard has EMP. So similar to Gardens, I would have liked for them to go coast, get EMP'd, and immediately take it off the map. Instead, they go here, they get EMP'd, and they can't
reset.
Yeah, and then guess what? You're feeding all of Element Mystic a shit ton of ult charge. High Noon, Coalescence, and a little bit of EMP at the end there. But realistically, Ardeont should have known they had EMP.
And despite this massive feed of ult charge, Ardeont, they still do win this map.
Yeah, they do. That's why I said there's a lot of counter throws. Oh, and then Climax.
You weren't kidding at the just sheer amount of throws that went on in this map series.
Yeah, I was not. Yeah, I was not. As you can you pause it?
Yeah,
so quick
absolutely.
Thing. Climax was trying to stay alive in their backline, in Element Mystic's spawn area, which I agree with. I think that was the right play. She just kind of didn't manage her blinks and recalls properly, so she didn't create enough space as she wanted or needed to. Mm-hmm. But as a play, I think Climax made the right call to try and do that. But again, this goes back to Ardeont not correctly realizing to just get EMP'd and just take it off the map. Because this also then, like we talked about earlier, this idea of fights on cough, you want as many fights as possible. So this kind of, them going into Mega screwed them pretty hard here. But again, like you said, Ardeont does win, so we'll see how
Now, you talk consistently about like EMPing and resetting, and you seem very confident in the fact that the situation is almost always EMP'd, reset. What situations exist or can you create that you actually fight through an EMP?
It's basically, it just comes down to ultimate usage. And Ardeont unfortunately does not have trance. So the fact that they have Coalescence and Beat, those are garbage into EMP. So with this composition, EMP, in my opinion, if you are well, I lost my train of thought. If you don't have like good ways to kind of counter that EMP like you do with the trance, or by Lucio getting a really clutch like hiding position, then in my opinion, you typically just want to take EMP off the map if the map is suited for that, in which case it is here. And yeah, and there's probably more examples that I can't think of right now where you actually can play it into an EMP, and that has to do with really good positioning and and other things. But in this case, you saw what Ardeont did. They just 6-stacked or maybe 5-stacked Mega. Guess what? EMP is gonna destroy in there. So
yeah, and if the Mega wasn't hacked before, well, now it is.
yeah, exactly. So like, if that was the play, at least space out more correctly. Like at least try to loss a bit better and play around your environment a bit better and spread out. Don't just clump up and get EMP'd. If you are gonna do that, then do that by the coast.
Absolutely. Now, we're going into final fight, so less than 30% left usually means final fight. At least it does to me.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, Element Mystic 5 ults.
Yeah, isn't that glorious?
How? Tell me how, Seksi.
Let's find out.
How do they fuck this up?
Yeah, let's watch, because I don't even remember at this point. I'm getting a little delirious, so I'm excited too. All right,
chat. You're gonna have to help me give huge thanks to Seksi for staying up this late to review this match with me.
No worries. Okay. Oh, actually, yeah. Can you pause it right here? Okay, so
you realize you're getting more and more excited the more tired you get.
I am.
Are you a giggly drunk?
Um, drunk. I think I can be on both sides of the spectrum, but I typically get happy. Yeah, I get happy.
Awesome. Okay, so what are
Yeah.
we looking at here with this pause?
Okay, so this is an excellent fight for Element Mystic. They're gonna get huge kills. If I recall correctly, Ardeont makes the brilliant realization that they can quickly disengage and have someone touch the point for one more fight. I can't stress how important this call was, because a lesser team would be like, it's last fight, use ults, fight,
So do they
we
like
lost.
stick Climax somewhere in a staged location? to
I
touch
believe
and
so. I
reset?
think Climax has the presence of mind. I believe it's Climax. I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember. But I think he has a presence of mind to disengage, tap the point at like 98% or whatever, or 99, and then they re-engage with an ultimate advantage. Because as you just saw, they use Coalescence. Element Mystic use Coalescence, Primal, High Noon. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they use either Self-Destruct or Beat right here. So huge props for Ardeont, or maybe it was just Climax. I don't know who to give the credit to disengage here. So go ahead and play this.
Boom.
So Fatty,
They need to reset right at this point. Absolutely.
yeah. So I don't know what that kind of happened was.
What?
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
He actually like
can you
Violet
pause it?
pops Coalescence and then drops, right?
Yeah, right. He got booped. Yeah. So by Lucio.
He was gonna do it regard. I'm surprised he used Coalescence because the call to reset should have come up before that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right. Which maybe points to maybe Climax made this self call, like he just kind of saw it himself.
Yeah,
and
maybe it
had the
wasn't a
presence of mind.
team-wide call.
Yeah, maybe. In which case, Climax gets MVP. Okay, so I want to mention, if you can go back like 10 seconds to that fan the hammer that XZ did, because I want to tap into like the psyche of the player. I want to talk about like the psychology here. So right here, go ahead and
He
play
just
this.
doesn't believe that with the nerves that he can land this shot, whereas he know that if one of the fan the hammer shots hit, it'll still kill.
Exactly. So right here, you see the nerves, right? Or like the adrenaline. Maybe his hands are shaking. Can you play this? So like, yeah, go ahead and just play it out. Yeah. Yeah. So he fans the hammer. Does he combat roll, or he just?
I don't think
reloads?
he has it. We can't see the cooldowns because there's PIP.
And then does
right
he
now.
does he fan the hammer again? I forget what happens.
No, it drops off. Oh, he does try and
but he
go
does.
for it, but
Yeah. So you can see in my mind, like XE is obviously a phenomenal player. The fact that he's doing stuff like this at this stage of the game tells
he's
me
stressed, zonked out of
that-
his mind.
yeah, he is so panicked, and we're gonna see him actually. Unfortunately, he makes the last biggest throw in my opinion. Okay, actually, can you go back? Who tapped the
Climax.
the point? Was it
was
Climax?
Climax.
Okay, so he makes the all-star play. You know, he already decided he was gonna make that play. So huge props to him. And then does he die here?
He
Yeah, he
dies
dies.
for
But
it,
but he literally saved his team here. So go ahead and play this. We're gonna get some fights here. He tries to get the primal, doesn't work. Huge headshot. Okay, right here. Pause it.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
So this is the play I was talking about.
Oh,
Right here,
no.
for all of you Zen mains out there, you probably know very damn well that transcendence into a self-destruct is a very good way to reposition, right? But I would imagine a lot of players don't know that, or don't really think a lot about the fact that self-destruct has a boop part of it, right? XZ, I was trying to tap into his mind. He probably thinks right now, oh, okay, I can face tank that Diva ultimate because I have barrier. But he does not
But
think
you
of
can't
the boop.
face tank, like not face tank. Like you can survive it from a range, but even at close range, Diva Bomb will blow through barrier, and that
Right,
that
but
bomb was right around the corner.
Yeah. But he was at a fair distance, right? And as you can tell, it only does what 200 damage to him. How much do you think it did to him?
300,
Because it just hit him.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
I think it only does 300 because barrier applies 600.
I think it's 5. I'm not sure. Maybe it's
5. I don't remember.
So right here, he gets a
Oh, it's
fatty
5.
barrier.
Okay, it's 500. So 640.
Yeah, and how much does he take? How much damage does he take? So again, right here, he's thinking, okay, I can tank this because I have barrier, but he does not remember the boop.
It only takes him like down 100 or so.
Yeah, because the fall off on self-destruct is actually pretty high, I guess, way to put it. Okay, can you go back again though? I want to look at that placement because we talked about that placement earlier. Diva players, I know I keep repeating this. Don't be afraid to use your ultimates in this way. It's such a good zoning tool. You don't have to always, go for that shift fancy play. Go ahead and play this. So yeah, you can probably go back to regular speed. Actually, no, this is probably fine. I want to see that Diva ultimate again. Where does he place it? Right there. Oh, and by the way, I'm not a fan that he does it at full health. As you can see, Humbaba has full health right now. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I think in the comms they were trying to combo the primal rage that Yakpung has going right now, and try to like pin people into the self-destruct. So I can't fault them for that because I think that was the call. Because realistically, this self-destruct without that primal rage, you're just looking for a luck play. And guess what? He got a bit lucky here because Xe throws this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they underestimated the knockback range on that bomb. So I mistook the reason why I was surprised that it did so little damage is that for some reason I thought the bomb was like right here, but it's actually in this, my first watching I mistook where it was actually placed, but it's in the back corner there.
Right.
So yeah, they probably thought they like I was good. Like for some reason, again, this is my mistake. My last two statements have been based off of the bomb being placed at this corner, but it was at this corner, which they would have been able to tank with the sound barrier to get back on point and stay in the fight. But the timing and the knockback.
You mean wouldn't have been able to tank, right?
No, they would have been able to. Like, they didn't die to the damage. It's the knockback that they get them. But if the bomb had been at this corner instead, the damage would have killed them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes,
I made the mistake on my last two statements based on where the Diva bomb was. I just wanted to correct that for the viewers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sucks to say, but if Xe doesn't die here, they probably win this. So right here it gets a bit scrappy. And you can probably play at full speed right now.
Okay.
And let's see what happens. I forget. Fighting. Target calling. Burn the Diva. Kill the Diva. Or the Sombra, whatever. Actually, is that a Sombra? I can't even tell. Oh, huge throw. Oh, sorry. Pause it right here. Again, huge throw. And if I recall correctly, I think the casters actually correctly called that EMP. You're at 66%, which means you have one fight guaranteed.
Oh, yes.
Maybe two. He should have recognized that. If you look at the kill feed when he did the EMP, it was nothing but
this
red.
Isn't 99.99. It's 99.66.
Exactly. So again, going back to the panicky mode, Element Mystic isn't used to losing, right? They've been the top dogs the whole time. They probably don't know how to handle this very well. And yeah, Guard just whiffs that EMP.
Let's listen to the casters after they do that.
Sure.
Rain going down, Repel, staying alive, the only healer in here for Element Mystic, and Dako, the only tank. Comes in violent, still sustaining, throws it out immediately, jumps back, gets the Mega Pack.
I think he should have held that for a follow-up push.
Dako
He's not going to have it now.
Out of the mag, gonna go down, Pokepo, trying to stay alive, Repel, committing with the Coalescence, they do not want the flip.
So yeah, the casters definitely said that, like, you used it, you should have held that. I definitely think they should have held that. Yeah, so... You were right. The casters recognized it as well. Achilleos is such a hype caster, though. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
can't wait to see him doing OWL stuff.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, if you looked at the kill feed, if you looked at the top of the screen, you can tell that Element Mystic had tons of dead bodies. Ardeont was clearly winning the fight, so that EMP was an unfortunate throw because they could have definitely used it.
The list of throws is getting longer and longer in this series. Holy smokes!
Man. It is what it is.
It is indeed. I assume bomb doesn't get used.
It's unfortunate that we're seeing this many throws because you want to see really high, crisp level play, but
yeah, well, they're a young team and inexperienced. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right, what happens here? Little poke battle going on.
EM has no ultimates, and Ardeont has 3 coming up on 5.
Oof, yeah, brutal.
Yeah, especially without that EMP. That's
don't die, Climax. Don't. Ah! He misses the bomb. He gets a really clutch recall here. Yeah, this is good. He goes the maximum time. That was lit. Oh man, that was so sick.
Really close though.
Yeah, and then at this point, like you said, there's not a lot of ults on Element Mystic's side, whereas Ardeont is just like rolling
prior.
Deep.
So again, you don't have the ability to do an eco push. You're out of. They really? Wow.
Yep.
That's how the series ends.
Indeed, it does. How sad. I would have liked to see a little bit less throwing, but it made it exciting.
What a comeback. And Ardeont takes out Metabellum, and then X6 took out Runaway.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? The Korean Contenders Finals is X6 Gaming versus O2 Ardeont. If you had told me that 3 days ago, if you had said that on Twitter 3 days ago, you'd probably get fucking laughed at.
Yeah, no one would believe you, 100%.
No one would believe you. But just shows you what a single elimination will do to a playoff roster, right? Absolutely incredible. Let's watch the Let's watch this final C9 one more time. But even if it wasn't a C9, EM didn't have a win condition here, did they?
Yeah, they're pretty SOL at this point. Like legit, it's hard to imagine a world where EM wins this, even if they get on.
Yeah,
point.
even if Element Mystic had a technical pause here, and they had 5 minutes as a team with a coach to discuss how they're going to win this, could they come up with something?
I doubt it. I really doubt it. Like, okay, let's try our best.
Let's try our best to find a win condition in an unwinnable situation. First one I'm seeing is that Hack needs to come out onto Moira. Hack needs to be Moira. That's the thing that I'm going to lay on the table. So we need to find some way to enable the Hack onto Moira.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. If not, then you go for Diva. But there's a good chance that Diva survives that Hack with Coalescence, or yeah. So, yeah, go for Hack on Moira. Where is she right now? Actually, she's off screen.
Yeah, off screen. Let's see if we can play just a little bit to see where she is.
The one thing going for Element Mystic is that they're pretty healthy. I mean, not super healthy, but they're not in horrible positions. Actually, can you pause it? One thing I will say is that maybe what Element Mystic could have done is like feigned a dive with like Sombra and Tracer like getting really close to bait out ultimates, because as you just saw, Violet was pretty keen on bursting that Coalescence early. And then hopefully you burn and Ardeont, Yakpung just burned Primal. So maybe a good play, going back to your coach hypothetical where you have 5 minutes to talk about it.
And Violet just burned Coalescence, right? So now Element Mystic could do to Ardeont what Ardeont did to Mystic, right? Fake the dive, blow a ton of ults, and then reset so that
then re-engage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
That's part of your win condition.
Maybe that's the only, but that's Ardeont not playing it correctly. Because even then, if you're trying to disengage from a Primal Monkey and a Coalescence, and then potentially, a speed boosted Dragon Blade, you're probably not going to get away in the way that with like enough time and resources after the fact. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So even then, you're still hoping that Ardeont misplays a bit, but that is your best bet, I think, as Element Mystic.
Cool. Well, that takes us to the end of the review. You are such a fucking trooper. Holy smokes. Can I get a huge thanks in chat for Seksi for sticking us out? Don't bother donating to me, because that was one hell of analysis. Now, for the people who are just tuning in now, because we broke 1,000 viewers, so there's 1,000 people here now. Do your introductions again so that the new people know who you are. Kind of what you do. Give us just the introduction, but as an outro. And if people want to hear more of you, which I assure you they do, where can they find you?
Well, okay, so to be honest, I'm putting all my eggs in the in the coaching basket, and I really enjoy this work. It's truly phenomenal. I love working with the players day to day, and giving them feedback and working on not just in-game stuff, but out-of-game stuff. Because a lot of times when you're coaching, you're dealing with conflict resolution and player relationships, and making sure players are in the right state of mind and things like that. So that being said, I don't have a lot of time as I'd like to kind of contribute to my YouTube and streaming and things like that. So unfortunately for the viewers, if they appreciated my analysis, I don't have a whole lot of time to do that kind of stuff on the side right now. I'm hoping in the future I will have more time to do that kind of stuff, but it's going to be a bit dry for me over the next couple of months. And you said it as an intro. My name's Daniel. I go by Coach Seksi. Was a software engineer for 8 years, and then fell in love with Overwatch about a year ago. Pursued interest in doing coaching, analysis, things like that. Started up a YouTube channel. Got recognized by Blank, specifically I believe by the assistant. Actually, I think he's the analyst, right? Gumba from Valiant. Is he? I think he's an analyst. Is that correct?
I think he's the analyst because Moon is the coach.
Right. So I believe he was the one that kind of noticed me on YouTube and recommended that I be analyst for Blank. Moved up to head coach a few months ago, and here we are doing a review on Jayne's stream for Ardeont kicking EM's butt.
Awesome. My mind just went blank at the least opportune time. Oh yes, is OWL the end goal? Are we going to see you in OWL one day, or are you kind of loyal to Blank?
Ooh, what a curveball question to end the night on.
Yeah, well, people
I
are going to
mean,
want to see more of you, and there's not a lot of people that pay attention to the Australian contender scene or the Pacific scene. So, are you going to stay
yeah.
there, and we're going to have to seek you out, or are we going to someday see you in the Overwatch League?
I absolutely would love to be a part of OWL. At the same time, yeah, like I do have some loyalty to Blank. They've been pretty good to me, all things considered. There's a lot. I'm sure, as you probably know, with lots of contenders teams, there's a lot of strife at the contenders level on
Yes,
like a
especially since
logistical.
contenders is kind of like a hunting ground for talent. It's
Right.
there,
So
there's
yeah,
less
so
team loyalty at contenders than there would be in the Overwatch League.
right. So there's a lot of strife and a lot of problems at the contenders level across the board with all teams. I can say that almost with absolute certainty. I doubt there's even a single team that doesn't have some problems when it comes to logistical, financial, et cetera, type of issues. So anyways, the reason I mention all that is just because I feel like Blank has been a pretty stand-up org to me, and I hope to get into OWL with them or with their players. That's my end goal. If in the future that doesn't work out and I get offered a spot at the OWL level, I would highly consider that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me. I would normally go through a question period, but I feel like you are both hungry and tired, and you deserve your rest. So thank you very much for the awesome analysis, and thanks for coming on.
I appreciate that.
I'm sure chat would welcome you back if you ever want to do this again.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Let's set up a time sometime
Awesome.
in the.
Cheers,
the future.
Daniel. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thanks, Jayne. Take care.
Well, wasn't that a fantastic segment? Holy smokes, he did a great job. And yeah, we actually kind of planned this because I'm trying to learn how to be a better coach and an analyst in the future, going forward myself. But Coach Seksi, Daniel, is one of the guys that I sought out in the early days, kind of poking people that I knew to be very proficient and competent coaches, and was like, I need some advice. I don't know where to go from here. There's so few resources available for people trying to become coaches or analysts at the contenders at the Overwatch League level, that he's kind of one of the guys that I just completely out of the blue, he didn't know who I was, and I didn't, well, we kind of knew of each other, but we'd never met. We weren't acquaintances. And I just went like, ring, ring. Hey, I need some advice. Can you help me out? I'm trying to make it as a coach. And he's been absolutely upstanding guy, has huge, just a treasure trove of videos on YouTube, very knowledgeable individual. And Blank is lucky to have him kind of all to their own instead of producing content. So absolutely love Coach Seksi, and probably one of the main reasons that I cheer for Blank. But yeah, his Twitter is Coach Seksi. He doesn't really tweet. But yeah, and there was an issue with yesterday's VOD. Yesterday's VOD, for some reason, was not recorded. Now, I'll thank a few subscribers and donators, and then we're going to chat for a little bit. I'm going to grab a drink of water, and then we're going to have Coach Arrow joining us in probably about 30 minutes or so. Excuse me. Can somebody link Coach? Well, there's the Duality of Genji video there, right there. Great video, and it will also link you to his channel. I got the hiccups. Excuse me. Okay, Senna subscribed with Prime just now. Thank you so much, Senna. Blank22299 with 100 bits says, hype for Seksi sticking with Jayne tonight. Yeah, he was a trooper. We only planned for like 2-3 hours, and we ended up going 4. Holy smokes. The Squid with 100 bits. No message. Appreciate it regardless. Keep the lights on. Vaulty resubscribed tier 1 for 5 months in a row. Welcome back, Vaulty. Why You Bully Meme has used 100 bits. Says, sup. Not much you. And then Dave McGee with the Prime sub. Cap Plays with the tier 1 sub. Remote Heron resubscribing with tier 2 for 5 months in a row. Thank you for all the new subscribers. Hope you're enjoying the stream. And we're going to keep her rolling. So one of the things that I thought would be fun to look at, Coach, the next guest that we're going to be having on is Coach Arrow. Now, Coach S, yeah, we'll do some Guess My SR stuff. But so Coach Arrow is the coach for the Fusion University, so Philadelphia Fusion's academy team, and they beat out the Mayhem Academy in order to earn a spot in the semifinals. Now, the contenders semifinals are actually going to be taking place in Poland, so they've got about a 2-week break before the finals start happening. So Arrow agreed to come on and talk with everyone to discuss their match against the Mayhem Academy, and this is going to be one of the coolest analyst kind of like guest hosts we've ever had on the stream, specifically because we're having the head coach of a team discussing his own team. And because he said that most of his strategies were developed specifically to beat Mayhem Academy, he's agreed to talk about the strategies that they used to actually win in the match. So we are going to have, instead of a very proficient coach talking about two very proficient teams, we're having a top-tier coach talk about his own team and the strategies that they implemented in order to go 3-0 against Mayhem Academy. So that is going to be really, really fucking hype. Anyway,